Gotta send out the fucking tweet and the Discord notification. 1 second, guys. We'll get started. Okay. Where are we? Okay, that's that done. Beautiful. Okay, we're good to go. Let's do this. I hit the record button. All right, so you all thought I forgot about good old Wrath Classic, huh? Oh, Josh has stopped playing Wrath. He doesn't give a fuck about us anymore. No. Okay, maybe I forgot about you a little bit, but I'm back, and I love all you Wrath enjoyers, and we are here to discuss what is, quite frankly, the moment that so many of you playing Wrath have been looking forward to for the last year, and that is ICC. So many people base their experience around Wrath about, like, I can't wait to get to the Lich King. I can't wait to get to the Lich King. Just want to, pump in ICC. And now that the PTR's been out for a little bit and we've had some of you out there testing things and having fun in ICC, the release was announced just a few days ago. One of the guys will correct me. I believe it's the 12th of October, he says with inflection. I'm getting nods, so that's correct. Very good. So very soon you will be getting all the ICC you can handle. So we figured, hey, why don't we do what we usually do when a new raid tier comes out and break it down with the best and the brightest? So we got the usual suspects. I'm so happy. We got a couple of old timers from Countdown to Classic and a new fresh face for you as well. Let's go through the regulars. Subtle, mate, it's so good to have you back.
Hey, I'm super glad to be back, especially talking ICC. It's probably my favorite raid, maybe of all time, and definitely have really good memories from back in the day. So it's going to be fun to talk about.
I think we're definitely going to hear the passion coming out when you guys start to talk about it. Like, you and I last talked Subtle when TOTGC came out. And, you're always excited to break down a raid tier for sure. But, like, I could sense that was, not quite getting the juices flowing as opposed to what's happening with ICC.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's always fun to have new raids, but TOGC, it's like kind of a step back in difficulty from Ulduar, and there's only 5 bosses. You're in 2 rooms the entire raid. Like, it's one of the worst feeling raids they ever made, but I think maybe the best, at least for, nostalgic value and like wrapping up the Warcraft 3 story and all that. I just love ICC.
Very good. Joining Subtle, we have Wacklow. Fuck, mate, how many times have you been on the show now? It's been a few. It's been amazing.
Yeah, this is my 3rd or 4th. It's great to be back.
Fuck, is that all? I swear we could have cracked it over a half a dozen, but every time you're on the show, I'm so happy to have you here. You've been fucking smashing the PTR, haven't you?
Yeah, I've done maybe 4 or 5 days total. This raid's like totally new to me. I just played TBC back in the day, but it's probably overtaking Nax 40 as my favorite of the trilogy. It's really a lot of fun, a lot of great bosses.
Very good, very good. We'll get into it all. And joining us, we have a Countdown to Classic first timer. And I really should thank this person the most because they were the one who put the boot up my ass to get this call happening. I really kind of somewhat forgot about ICC, and this person reached out and was like, hey, Josh, you are going to talk about ICC on the show, right? And thankfully, they put their hand up to get the party started. Kung, how are you, mate?
Hey, Josh, I'm doing great. That's happy to be here and glad to talk about ICC.
Mate, it's great to have you here. I should ask, do you want to go by Kung or something else? What do you prefer?
Oh, Kung is great.
Kung's all good. Fantastic. All right, mate, what server do you play on, Kung, by the way?
I play on Gehenna.
Gehenna's, good man, excellent. All right. Well, look, guys, let's start out all warm and fuzzy and generic with the easy stuff, and then we'll get down to the specifics of all the encounters and the gear. Subtle kicked us off. We might get him to go last on this one and hear more from you, Kung, and Wacklow, just on like how you feel about ICC in general. Wacklow was just saying he's a bit of a Wrath first timer in terms of this raid, so it's all new and fun to him. But Kung, for you, is there a lot of nostalgia attached to ICC? Is this something you've been looking forward to a lot? Why do you love ICC?
It's definitely the nostalgia most of it, and finishing up the Warcraft 3 story with the Lich King and the RP in there is great.
Is most of the love? I mean, I'm sure the fights are fantastic and the loot is great. Do you think a lot of your love or other players' love, it's hard to speak for other people, really does just come from the fact that it's so deeply tied to the Warcraft 3 lore, and this is, the years later finishing off of one of the greatest video game stories told of all time?
I would say so, yeah. Like, definitely back in Vanilla, people were talking about when are we going to see Arthas and Lich King.
So do you feel that, knowing what you know of it now, I mean, we went through it back in the day, and now you've had the chance to go through it again in Classic, at least on the PTR. Do you say to people, do you feel that ICC lived up to the hype?
Most definitely. Yeah. I think it's probably the greatest raid they've ever done.
Greatest raid they've ever done. Very good. All right, Wacklow, we'll throw it over to you, man. How have you, experienced it? You just sort of gave us a little bit of a tease before and said this is kind of your first time through. Tell us, how you're feeling about it so far.
Yeah, so aside from like the actual, content of the bosses, I feel like it is cool that the whole expansion, like questing through Northrend, a lot of dungeons, obviously like the end of TOGC, like Arthas pops up again and again, and it's cool that there's this gradual build over a whole expansion up to this one big bad. The closest thing I feel like we've had before is kind of with Illidan a little bit, but even then it seemed like sort of a little like corner of Outland rather than it being like the big bad. So that's cool. Also, it's just like, on the ground, a lot of fun. Boss fight for boss fight. Like the only classic raid I think you can compare it to is Sunwell, but the scale of ICC is like so much bigger than Sunwell. It just feels like a whole new beast from anything else I've done in any of the first three.
All right. Subtle, let's get you to bring us home, man. Look, I mean, it really is hard to discuss ICC without that lore aspect, and I don't intend to do that. The lore is a huge part of it, and if it makes people feel warm and fuzzy to get this story told again, then so be it. But how do you kind of divide between the love of the lore and the story versus the actual mechanics of the design of the dungeon?
Yeah, so I mean, the lore and stuff, that's just kind of the cherry on top for me. The thing I like most about the dungeon is that like the difficulty level is fairly high, especially like Lich King. I haven't gotten to do a ton of heroic Lich King yet, but it seems to be the hardest fight we've seen so far in Classic. So that's always really exciting to get some like more difficult encounters to do. And even some of the pre-Lich King fights, they seem to be on par or maybe even a little harder than some of the hardest fights we've seen in other raids, like Ulduar, like week 1 hard modes, and Sunwell. And so in terms of like difficulty and mechanics, like the raid is definitely an A+ for things we've seen in Classic so far. Like there's actually mechanics that need to be done. You don't get to kill every boss in 30 seconds like we did in Nax and skip all the mechanics, and you're actually doing mechanics, and every person in your raid actually feels impactful because some of the mechanics can just wipe your whole raid. So if, your weakest link is messing up the mechanics, could very easily wipe you. So it feels like much more of a team effort than like 10 people carrying like 15 others.
To throw a bit of a blanket generalization across the difficulty of ICC, Subtle, I did see comments popping up already from people saying, along the lines that you've touched on just there, saying, look, man, if you thought fucking Ulduar hard modes were difficult, wait until you get to ICC. Like, this is the actual real gut check of difficulty of this expansion, which, I've no doubt it probably is. But what would you say to people who are trying to do the comparison, like maybe looking at their guild or whatnot, going, oh, okay, we just got by in Ulduar hard modes. I wonder how we're going to fare with ICC hard modes.
So personally, I've only been able to do a few 25-man PTR sessions, but I've been doing a ton of 10-man like heroic on PTR. just because my guilds don't really like to do PTR, so it's easier for me to just throw like a 10-man together with some guildies and like some people from Twitch chat or whatever. So I've been mostly going hard on the heroic 10-mans just to kind of nail down the mechanics and everything. I did that in Ulduar, and it helped a lot because you can basically figure out 80 to 90% what you need to do for 25-man, and then you just make some slight adjustments based on, you know, this thing hits way harder on 25-man, so you have to do this thing a little bit differently. But for the most part, like 10 to 25-man, anything you learn in 10-man is mostly going to carry over to 25-man. So that's what I've been focusing on. But 10-man, definitely 10-man heroics are a step up from where Ulduar was. There's quite a few bosses where I think most guilds will spend at least like 5 to 10 pulls to get down, like Putricide, Sindragosa, Blood Council, possibly Saurfang, and then Lich King, obviously a lot more than that. So compared to Ulduar, like in Ulduar, you 10-man, at least like you had like Firefighter. That could be a few pulls for people. And I mean, Algalon, that was pretty much it.
Well, I feel like we still waited. Tell me if I'm way off base here, but I feel like we still waited a reasonably significant amount of time for the bulk of guilds to start getting to Algalon and clearing it.
Sure, yeah. Algalon was a really unique boss in that he was similar difficulty on 10-man and 25. That's not something we've really seen in any other raid before. So he definitely was pretty difficult for a lot of guilds. And then I think you're referencing maybe the week to week stats of like how many people had like cleared,
right,
you know, up to a certain point in Ulduar. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but from just my recollection, it was like about a month in, I think, to Ulduar, only like 300 guilds had fully cleared it on 25-man, like Yogg Zero and Algalon with all the other hard modes. Maybe 4 or 5 weeks, something like that. So it was a very small amount. And I think ICC is going to be a little bit longer than that. So like, I think to get to that like 300 guilds have like fully cleared the raid point, I think it'll be like 6 weeks instead of like 4. So
fair enough.
Like Lich King is like a really, really difficult fight on heroic that I think is gonna cause people issues for a while.
Fair enough. Wacklow, mate,
Yeah,
what have you noted about the difficulty? Yeah, go for it, man.
Sorry, go ahead, Josh.
No, you go.
I was just gonna say, I think the difficulty is like a little more baked in and a less just sort of like a stat check than it was in Ulduar 2, especially for Alg. Like doing 10-man Alg week 1 in all Nax gear was really hard, but it was really hard just because he hit really hard. You needed a lot of healing, and you needed people to like not mess up the very basic mechanics. But like Deathwhisper heroic is easy. There's nothing really, I would say, challenging about the fight. This is like the second fight you do in ICC. But even once you're geared, even when you have that like little bit of a pad to your HP pool, like if people mess up the easy ghost mechanic, it can still wipe the raid. And there's like not as much of that on the harder fights in Ulduar. So like you were saying, Subtle, I think it's like less of the, 10 or 15 decent players like carrying the rest of the raid and more of everyone having to step up, like truly.
If I could push you to generalize though, Wacklow, like just sort of in the simple one-word answer, obviously you can extrapolate after the fact, but if I were to say, let's put Ulduar and ICC up against each other, is it no contest ICC is blatantly harder, or is there a bit more to it for you?
Oh, ICC is much harder. The only fights I would say are comparable to ICC fights, and this is like doing it in week 1 gear when you're in like the previous tier, is Vosh, Muru, and maybe Kale. I don't think there's anything in week 1 prog from that I've done from Wrath, sorry, that compares. I didn't do Alkalon week 1, I did in week 2. So I think it's really like a step up because the average level of the bosses here, I'd say, is comparable to like the harder bosses from past tiers, but there's like 12 of them. So you're going to have to progress, get through it, progress again. It's going to take a long time for your average guild, if ever, to get through this entire thing on heroic.
Okay. Kung, what have you noted of the difficulty? What have the guys said anything you'd like to comment on, or just in general, what do you think of, how would you describe the difficulty of ICC?
Individual responsibility is much higher in ICC than any other raid we've had so far.
Have you noticed any particular challenges amongst your guilds just on the PTR testing that you've done? Any particular moments that you thought, oh, that particular mechanic has been a little bit tricky for us?
We've had struggles with Putricide, and I had a few tries on Sindragosa and didn't even get to Lich King Heroic yet. But yeah, the intermission mechanic on Putricide, I feel like is a wall people will hit.
Okay, guys, we'll get into each boss very soon. I'll just sort of say, what do you expect to happen, Subtle, early on once we start seeing a few clears? Because I think it's one of those situations where I just look back on, a few years ago with Classic when so many people sort of said, oh, once I kill Kel'Thuzad, fucking, I'm out of here. I'm history. My Classic days are done. I've killed the boss. And that turned out to be bullshit. A lot of people were having such a good time that they stuck around. But a lot of people have said the same thing about Arthas in ICC, going like, no, man, like seriously, this time the trilogy is it for me. One or two kills of Arthas and I'll fucking ride off into the sunset. Could you see that happening with the bulk of people with what's to come in Wrath? Or do you think that a lot of people will be tempted to kick on? I know it's hard to answer for other people, but what's your vibe on it?
I don't really think too many people are going to quit like immediately when they kill Lich King. I mean, as you mentioned, we didn't really see that in Classic, even though a lot of people said that. I've had a few people in my chats asking like how they can kill Lich King the quickest, because like that's their only goal is like kill normal mode Lich King and then they're gonna quit. But I don't think that's generally what the majority of people are gonna be doing. So I mean, I think people are gonna stick around. We still have Ruby Sanctum. It's not like super exciting, but I feel like people will at least want to like check that out while they're here, And ICC is just a fun raid. Like it's one I can see being fun even like after you've done it several times. So I mean, for me, it's still fun. I've done it quite a few times just on the PTR recently. And back in the day, I rated it for like 11 months. So, I mean, it's a good one.
Well, there is still that elephant in the room of Ruby Sanctum to come after all this. And it is a little bit of a anticlimactic ending, if you will, particularly with Wrath, where you get that ICC is not the final raid tier that you do. Subtle, were you on board? No, I'd love to hear from you. Other guys on this one, Subtle has given his answer as well. I know a lot of people were really, really going in hard on the Classic team to consider mixing up the delivery of Ruby Sanctum this time around with Wrath Classic, whether it be, there were suggestions, I think, please correct me if I'm wrong, couple it up with TOTGC or release it a little bit after TOGC but before ICC. I don't know how the fuck you would do it, but everyone was kind of like, oh, are we seriously doing ICC and then Ruby Sanctum afterwards again? How do you feel about it, Subtle?
Yeah, I was totally on board with releasing it during TOGC with lowered item levels. I don't think you would even need to tune it. Like the way people play these days compared to back then, you probably don't even need to tune the fight. Just like release it as is and make it drop lower item level stuff. And I think people would have been fine with it. And like TOGC just has like almost nothing going on. It's a really rough point in the expansion. Like throw something else in there, just because TOGC is basically like the Hyjal BT patch if there's no Black Temple. Like like you only have Hyjal. It's like a really, really silly patch. And I thought it was going to be a short patch, but it looks like I think we're going to end up at 16 weeks for it, which is like the lower end of a normal phase length. So I mean, we needed a little something else there, but and also like Lich King should obviously be the final boss in Wrath of the Lich King. Like I don't know what we're doing.
Wacklo, how do you feel about it, Ruby Sanctum?
Exactly the same. I think if they released it truly as it was back in the day, the trinkets would have just been too good, and it would have made progression like pretty meaningfully easier in ICC. But if you put it out, make it challenging by just like not changing any of the stat values and make the trinkets, I don't know, 260 eye level, somewhere in that vicinity. So they're good. They're BIS for most people, but they're not like game breaking for progression. It would have been nice because the only redeeming part of TOGC is that it's short. You're in and you're out. Otherwise, it's been a pretty rough patch, I'd say. There's really not a lot exciting going on right now in Wrath.
Kung, agree or disagree about Ruby Sanctum? How have you felt about it recently?
I totally agree. However, they have stated that Ruby Sanctum will come earlier than it did back in the day, so we'll see when that happens.
Kung, I'll keep you rolling and I'll get the other guys to comment on this as well, and then we'll get into the ICC stuff. Look, it seems now in hearing you guys sort of talk about what's been and what's to come raid tier-wise, and we might have to explore this a little bit more in depth in like a bit of a Wrath review later on, but we're now talking about all these raid tiers, and I get the impression from you hardcore raiders here talking to me now that it might be the case that like 2 of the 5 raid tiers were good, were great, but the others seem a little bit ho-hum. Everyone celebrates All-Dual, everyone celebrates ICC, but the rest of Wrath rating seems to leave a lot to be desired. How do you feel about Wrath as a whole, as an expansion, as a radar, having done it all again now, Kung?
Yeah, to be honest, if they didn't add the Heroic Plus system, I think Wrath would not die, but definitely dwindle in player base.
Did Wrath Classic change your perception of Wrath at all?
I have a totally different approach now than I did back in the day. So yeah, I feel like it's more fun, I think.
So you've enjoyed it more through Classic?
Yeah, I think I can say so, yeah.
Okay, that's fair enough. And that's great to know. And that's why I'm wondering, I think people are relatively split on this one, whether I guess some people might say they feel the same way about Wrath as well, but whether their opinions have grown more positive or maybe been detracted a little bit from what they've re-experienced through Wrath Classic. Subtle, I'll throw it to you. And just from the Raiders' perspective, like I say, do you think, I'm not trying to, like I say, I can't fucking go in too hard here because I haven't played Wrath in 6 months, so I'm just more asking the question as opposed to sort of trying to put the boot in myself. But have you enjoyed Wrath more? Enjoyed it less than you did 15 years ago, strictly thinking about the rating and how you felt about each tier?
I think it's been about the same for me, just enjoyable in different ways, I guess. But like, it's kind of weird this time around because like Nax was so easy. We even had a buff Nax where they like increased the HP and damage, I think, of bosses by 30%. And it was still like, you're killing bosses in like 30 seconds. It definitely suffers from the issue of like you have a really, really awful, like just easy tier to start out with. Then you have an amazing tier. Ulduar is fantastic. It's definitely in my top 3 of, what we've done in Classic so far. The others being like ICC and Sunwell. Then you have TOGC, which we already talked about, not the best. And then you get ICC, another amazing tier. So it's just a weird like roller coaster you're on, where it goes from like awful tier to amazing tier to awful tier to amazing tier. So if they re-release, I'm sure they'll do some more Wrath in the future, like after this is wrapped up. If they do re-release in the future, they need to tune the phase 1 raids. They need to be much, more difficult. Like, can't do the 30-second bosses again. And then TOGC phase just needs like, I mean, this is a lot to ask for, but they need to just like finish that troll raid that they planned for this expansion, put that in TOGC phase. Because I'm sure somewhere there's a lot of work that was done on it that was never completed. So it wouldn't be a totally like, new development they would need to do. But I would like to see them go back, find those old like notes and everything on the troll raid that was supposed to happen, flesh that out, make it happen, or something a lot of people want, Scarlet Crusade raid, which, I mean, Scarlet Crusade's pretty prevalent in Northern. So that'd be another one. I think that'd be a huge hit for people, and it would make phase 3 actually awesome.
Wacklow, I don't think Subtle is necessarily alone. Sorry, Matt, I keep interrupting for you. Before you're doing the right thing, you're naturally piggybacking off of Subtle, and then I rudely interrupt. Mate, I was just going to say, do you feel that people, including yourself, obviously, generally have felt that roller coaster ride that Subtle just described through Wrath in terms of like, now it's good, now it's bad, now it's good, now it's bad, in terms of the rating enjoyment? And also, do you feel like that roller coaster ride was applicable to what we got with Classic and TBC Classic, or is it just this uniqueness with Wrath?
So on the first point, I think almost everyone's felt that sort of roller coaster ride. The beginning of expansions are always a lot of fun. There's always a ton to do. And even with that feeling, Nax managed to make phase 1 one of the worst phases we've had in the classic trilogy, just because we had just done it. And now we're getting a watered down baby version of it. And it's just horrible. It's really the worst phase of any phase of the trilogy. Is phase 1 of Wrath. It's just really bad. I don't think people are quite as down on TOGC. It's boring, but again, it's short. There's not a lot to do, but it's not a grind in the same way phase 1 was. I do think there's a bit of a precedent in vanilla where you had MC, not the most exciting raid in the world, but in vanilla, raiding is a much smaller part of the game, to be honest, in terms of like your time in the raid versus your time in the world, unless you're a rampant gold buyer. And then in TBC, we had, maybe a dip in phase 1. People were upset there wasn't like a good, lengthy 25-man raid. And then in the Hyjal BT phase, BT was great, but everyone hated Hyjal. But there was not the same degree of these low points, I don't think. The only comparable phase I would give to like TOGC is maybe AQ phase from vanilla. A lot of people really hated all the trash, and it was really long, and it was just a grind. A lot of guilds died. But there's nothing as bad as phase 1 of Wrath. I think if they do it over, they'll, like you said, Subtle, they have to either add new content, or if they don't, they need to really squish it, like a month-long phase 1. And then they release Ulduar and have a real phase, and then like TOGC comes out with Ice Crown or something. They really need to squish it together if they want to redo this in the near future.
Alrighty. Guys, let's get into Ice Crown. Let's talk about the bosses, the encounters, the loot, all the fun stuff. Wacklow, we'll get you to kick us off, mate. You can take the honors with the first boss, Lord Marrowgar. If I get anything wrong, guys, not that the order really matters, but if I say anything fucking stupid, just correct me. I haven't rated ICC before, and I won't rate it in Wrath Classic, but, we'll happily watch along. Lord Marrowgar, Wacklow, let's play the game of, we'll get everyone to vote fun or not fun, and what notes have you made of it as an encounter on the PTR so far?
I'd say fun, quick and easy fight. I think it's fair to say, except for Gunship, which is more of an event than a fight, Marrowgar is the easiest fight in the place. There's a few mechanics, if you're not careful, you can die. If your raid has no idea what they're doing, you can't brute force it with just DPS, at least at this point. But, there's fire you have to not stand in. You have to stand in the right place so that if you get a debuff on you, your team can, the raid can basically DPS you down with the debuff to clear it from you. But it's pretty simple compared to most of the fights in here. If you have a decent raid team, even if you've never encountered it before, I think you can get it down on heroic in 3, 4, or 5 pulls. Not a lot of notes on Marrowgar, except that it's fun. It looks cool. The boss looks really cool, and it's the easy one.
Yeah. Okay. Subtle. Is this your classic welcome to the dungeon, just push this boss over kind of encounter?
Yeah, pretty much. But I think it does a good job of kind of setting the tone for ICC. So it's like an easy boss, but like Wacklow mentioned, there's mechanics. If you don't do the mechanics, you die. So it sets the tone for that, where mechanics are gonna be a lot more important than they were in other tiers. And I've had a few wipes on Heroic Marrowgar because people didn't do the mechanics right. And that's good to see, right? That you actually have to do mechanics or you wipe. And then just aesthetically, I think the like room and boss look pretty cool. And then if you look up too, like you can see like the whole like frozen throne like structure from like Warcraft 3. So that's pretty awesome. I think that like first boss, you're already seeing all this like cool stuff like aesthetically too.
Kung, how about you? Any notes from your encounters with Lord Marrowgar? Anything the guys have said that resonate with you? Have you found it fun, or you know, anything about it?
I have to say mediocre, to be honest.
Okay.
It's a good entrance boss, but when you kill it on heroic and ask yourself, was it really heroic? Then
Fair enough.
They tuned it wrong.
What kind of tuning would you have preferred to have seen?
Probably like he's a big skeleton dude with a giant axe, so probably bigger tank damage would be nice.
Which mechanics are you guys finding that, like you say, it's a relatively simple boss, but which mechanics, if any, are you finding that people you've run the PTR with might be fucking up more than others? Or, you know, any mechanics that, even though we say it's simple, the average guild might have the guy who's half drunk fucking up, you know, it's going to be Cold Flame, Bonesback Graveyard, getting out of Bone Storm. What do you think?
Standing in fire and standing in Bone Storm, basically, and being out of position. So if the raid's positioned properly and you have like tanks on opposite sides, you can just ping pong Marrowgar back and forth. He always just goes in a straight line back and forth. But there's always that one person that's like way away from everything. So then it starts like fucking up your ping pong, and it's kind of annoying. But yeah, it's going to be Cold Flame and standing in Bone Storm, basically. And on Kung's point about tank damage, so there's like a cleave he does that's like split between anybody in front of him. And it actually does so little damage that you just solo tank it on 10 man and you 2-tank it on 25 man. So yeah, I mean, it probably should do enough that you actually have to do the mechanic as it was meant to be.
Yeah, the fire does a real amount of damage. I mean, even if it spawns on you, you can walk out of it and not take damage, but that's the only really threatening mechanic, unless you're standing in the center of Bone Storm. So, yeah, it's definitely an intro boss, but I didn't think it was as trivial as, like, Flame Leviathan.
Alrighty. Any fun loot off this guy, or is it pretty inconsequential?
He drops his axe, which looks cool. I don't know if it's actually Biss for anybody, but it looks cool.
Brintroll?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's about it?
Probably good in PvP early on.
Okay, very good, very good. Well, let's move on. Let's go to Lady Deathwhisper. Now, who wants to kick us off? Subtle, you kick us off on this one. What's the go with Lady Deathwhisper?
Lady Deathwhisper. It's a good fight. There's a decent amount going on. I think it's pretty fun. 2-phase fight. Phase 1, it's mostly an ad fight, and you're like trying to burn through her mana shield. Then once you get through that, then you're in phase 2, and she's actually like mobile and moving around and everything. And throughout the whole fight, there's like mind controls going out, which, like, you know, it always like spices things up and throws a wrench in things. But as long as people are good about like cloning the MCs and putting other CCs on them, it's pretty manageable. But, you know, again, something the raid has to actually pay attention to and do. And if like your best players get MC'd, then, you know, the other players have to step up and like be the ones CCing the MCs. So it really requires everybody to kind of, you know, play a part, right? And the tank also gets like a stacking debuff that like reduces their threat, and eventually you just do no threat anymore. Pallies can bubble it off, so like on 10 man I've been solo tanking it because I can just bubble off the stacks when they get high. But on 25 man, you're gonna want more tanks. And then the ghost mechanic, I think Wacklow talked about it earlier. Basically, she summons some ghosts, and then they follow a random raid member. If they reach that person, they do a huge AoE, which just like kind of wipes you. So the whole fight, it's a little bit chaotic, but like kind of controlled chaos if you're doing it right. But basically, like big death and decays are being dropped on the ground. Your raid's constantly being mind controlled. Your tanks are losing the ability to do threat. You've got ads spawning in the final phase as well. And they put a curse out too that adds a 15-second cooldown to any ability you use. So it needs to be decursed immediately. And a lot of times people aren't super watching that. So then they'll put, a 15-second cooldown on their fireball or like their sinister strike or whatever. So you really got to pay attention to like when you have that debuff, stop doing things and get decursed. And and then you're like dodging the ghost too. So there's quite a bit going on, but it's not like crazy difficult, but like it's going to take people some time to learn.
Okay.
It feels almost like, I don't know, like a Cthulhu type fight or like Yogg. There's like a lot going on, nothing terribly difficult going on. You just have to know the mechanics and basically not mess up.
Kung, are we saying fun or not fun on Lady Deathwhisper?
Definitely fun, especially when the chaos starts happening halfway through phase 2.
Very good, very good. Thumbs up, Wacklow?
Oh yeah, definite thumbs up. I mean, despite the fact that I say it's easy, we wiped over and over on it. So it's definitely a fight where you have to learn it, and it feels good when you finally have some good pulls. So yeah, I'd say one of my, definitely at least in the top half of my bosses here. I really like it.
What was the main thing that was catching you guys out, Wacklow?
People just standing still and having the ghosts run into them. I mean, this is going to sound stupid, but the ghosts are like a very late violet that doesn't contrast all that much with the background. So like you really do have to be constantly watching for the ghosts in phase 2. It's really, really easy. They move so slow, but they will sneak up on you.
All right. Well, how's the loot, Subtle, on this one? Let's have a look. Lady Deathwhisper, she drops. Anything spicy?
Nothing off the top of my head, but I mean, I mostly just focus on the tank loot. I'm trying to remember if she dropped anything good for tanks.
I just know some caster loot. Nibelung is like the staff. It's Bist for boomies. It's like second Bist, situational Bist for fire mage. But it's cool. It summons a Valkyrie that does like some real damage.
How about that bow and that dagger? Does anyone know if hunters or rogues want them? I'm not sure.
From what I recall, the dagger is good, but not full Bist.
Right.
I could be wrong.
Okay.
But it's at least solid, I think.
Fair enough. All right. Anything else on Lady Deathwhisper before we move on? I think that's about it, yeah? Let's go. I was going to say the controversial one, but I don't know if that's fair to say. Subtle, you sort of hinted at this before. Gunship Battle. I mean, how do we really feel about this in 2023?
I mean, it's just, your time to have fun and like, I don't know, get your mind right for the real fights, I guess. It is kind of fun though. So there's a macro you can add to all your abilities. It's like / bracket at player bracket 4, and basically it just casts your rocket pack every second, and it does a 2000 AoE around you. So it's really fun to play with as like a prop ally, because I'm just constantly pulsing a 2000 damage AoE the entire fight and topping the damage meter. So that's my favorite part about Gunship. But I mean, it's just kind of a silly like fight that isn't very difficult, and you get really good loot from it. Well, 277 loot. I don't know if the actual loot is good, but I mean, early on you'll take any 277 you can get.
Wacklow, it's worth it for the RP.
It's worth it once. Literally, I think the second time we did it, I was thinking, okay, I've seen this. Can we just get through it? It's like, it's just a time waster. I'd say it's by far the worst fight, if you want to call it that, in here. It's just impossible to mess up. You don't really have to do anything. All you do is like bounce around with your rocket shirt. And that's the only fun part of the fight.
Fair enough. Kung, how do you feel about the Gunship Battle?
Probably 10 plus people can be AFK and you can still kill it.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Just one of those encounters. What you'll draw straws on who gets to go AFK every time.
It will definitely be my bathroom break.
Very good. So what does it actually drop quite handy gear subtle?
I'm trying to think of specific pieces. The loot's gonna be 277 though, and it's like essentially free 277. So early on, I mean, any 277 you can get, you're probably using. But I'm trying to remember any specific ones. I think there might be one tank piece.
There's like a caster neck that's pretty good, but I don't think it's Biss.
I mean, what would you do if you put your designer hat on, Kung, in 2023, and let's say you've got to keep, you've still got a story to tell, you've got to keep certain elements of Gunship Battle there, but is there anything you would do to spice it up these days to make it more fun for yourself?
Oof, that's a tough one. I don't know, add a second gunship to battle.
Yeah. What about you other guys?
I think so. There's like a named NPC on each boat. I think you'd probably have to do something where you actually have to fight them. So the way it works now, you basically jump over to the other boat. You have a tank them for a little bit. They get a stacking buff that increases their damage, like the longer people are over there. And then you just all jetpack back once you've killed the mage over there. And so you're not like really damaging the named mob at all. I think if you were gonna make it like a legit fight, you'd have to be on like both ships simultaneously, like probably the entire fight, maybe some swaps here and there for different things. But you'd actually have to like kill, or I mean, it's a named mob that's like important for lore reasons, so you couldn't kill them, but get close to killing them or whatever. I think you'd have to actually fight that named mob. They'd have to have some extra mechanics, and at the same time you'd have to be trying to like keep your ship alive and stuff like that.
Wacklo, how would you spice up the sex life with Gunship Battle in 2023?
Maybe so if you fall off the ship because you're in the air on these two ships, you just get like ported back. Maybe make it so that you truly die if you fall off the ship, and then put mechanics in there where if you don't position right, you get pushed off, just to give you something to think about during the fight.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, the rockets actually do knock you off, but then I mean, it just ports you back up. So there should be more mechanics that push you off, though.
Yeah.
Shows how much I'm paying attention. I haven't even noticed.
All right, guys.
Yeah, we had a couple. I think we actually had a tank get knocked off, but it didn't even matter. So that's like kind of the level of difficulty on this fight.
All right, let's go to Deathbringer Saurfang. Wacklo, kick us off. How do you feel about this one?
Definitely a tough fight. I have a feeling it'll be one of those fights where you get a couple weeks of gear and it becomes one of the easier fights, because there's a bit of a healer check, bit of a DPS check. As a mage player, bit of a not getting one-shot check because there's like a heavy physical damage debuff you can get. But it's a lot of fun. If you're one of the people who are responsible for ads, whether DPSing them or knocking them back, there are these ads that like you can't let reach anybody or you basically wipe. There's a lot of cool individual responsibility. It's relatively difficult without being complicated. I'd say a really cool fight. Also, there's some cool lore around it, although the RP is a bit long if you're on Horde side.
All right. Subtle, sneaky, hard fight this one, or it'll become relatively straightforward?
Yeah, it's definitely like a reasonable difficulty. I'd say it's probably maybe like the sixth hardest, something like that. But I mean, so on Horde, Wagler alluded to it. There's like a minute 40 seconds of RP before every single pull. It's super annoying. So what you gotta do is you gotta just start the RP as soon as everybody's resident and everything, and then everybody's like rebuffing, drinking up. Everybody's gonna complain. They're gonna be like, "Oh no, I don't have enough time. There's no way I'm gonna be ready in time." And then 45 seconds before the timer's even up, everybody's just standing there like twiddling their thumbs. So it's one of those things like as soon as you get res, just start the timer, and I promise you'll be ready in time. Otherwise, you're going to be spending forever like progging that fight if you're actually waiting the 2 minutes between every pull. But But it's a good fight. I like it. There's a bit of responsibility as a tank. There's a pretty high reward for being really quick on your taunts for the fight. Basically, he puts a debuff on the tank, and then the other tank has to taunt immediately. And any hit he lands, like while the tank has that debuff, it does a little bit of extra damage, but more importantly, it gives him blood power, which speeds up how quickly the marks go out. So it's really, really important. It also heals him too, but it's really important that you get those taunts immediately. So I like fights like that where it's not like, oh, you can kind of taunt like whenever you want within like 5 seconds or whatever. It's like you actually get rewarded for like an instant taunt, which I think is cool. And basically the ads we found were kind of the entire fight. Once you are really good about managing the ads, then it's a lot easier after that.
Is that all on the tank to manage the ads?
No, it's on the raid. It can be on the tank too, potentially, because the ads are tauntable. You don't want them to hit you, though. So there are a lot of plays tanks can make where like an ad might be getting out close to hitting somebody, and a tank can taunt it from far away and like save them from getting hit. So there is a lot of room for tanks to like make plays on those ads and like save people, which is really fun. And as a prop pally also, like you're probably speccing into improved Hammer of Justice so you can hodge one of the ads every single time. And generally that target will get focused down first by the melee so that like their threat doesn't matter. So like as a prop ally, I'm throwing a hodge on a target, like the first kill target every single time. The melee are just instantly killing that one. And they don't have to worry about the threat at all because the mob is stunned the entire time. And then melee got to be really careful after that because the casters are going to be on some of the other ads to try to get threat on them, get them moving towards range. But melee got to be careful because if they rip on any of those and get hit, that gives Saurfang blood power, which speeds up his Mark of the Champion, which is like kind of the soft enrage of the fight.
Kung, how did you guys go with this one on the PTR?
We struggled with it a little bit, to be honest. But once we got it down, we one-shot it every single night.
Which parts were you guys struggling with?
Probably the mark, the soft enrage, to manage to get that done with the DIs and things like that.
Now, Kung, which well, I'm sure Subtle will talk about as well, but looking at the loot on this one, Kung, is there anything that stands out to you? I mean, the sword looks pretty tasty.
I mean, there's definitely Deathbringer's Will that everyone will want to drop in the raid.
Which one, sorry?
Deathbringer's Will, the trinket.
Oh, the trinket. What does that do?
Basically has a flat armor pen on it, and then it can give you one of 3 buffs. It's what is it? Haste, crit, and
it's based on what class you are too. So like certain classes get different procs, yeah. But it's like strength, agi, attack power, I think, crit, haste. I believe those are the ones, and then like based on your class, it procs different things.
Is this like
and it turns you into a badass Northrend monster.
Oh, nice. Is this like the flare or Commons Trail of ICC?
Sorry, what?
Is this like the flare or Commons Trail or whatever of ICC?
Most definitely.
Definitely.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I've got you. Subtle, talk to me about that sword. Is that a good tank sword, or is that just to combat roads? Looking at that one.
Yeah, that's a great prop ally weapon because we want slower weapons, but all the tank stat weapons are fast weapons. So that is something prop allies are going to want, but it's something like you give to the DPS first in almost all situations, and then you can pick that up at some point once it's not really contested anymore. It has armor pen on it, which isn't good for prop allies, but it also has hit, and it's just a high damage weapon, which is what we're looking for. And also on that boss, he's the first boss that's going to drop the tier tokens for you. So that's another big reason to kill him early, on top of that Deathbringer's Will. Because he's going to drop both the 264 tier token and the 277. So you can in ICC, you have to upgrade like each level one at a time. You have to start with the 251, then go to 264, then 277. So getting those tokens rolling in as quickly as possible is really nice.
Mate, have you res the first Deathbringers or else you quit?
Oh, wait, Deathbringers will?
Yeah.
No, the trinket I don't want at all as a prop guy.
Okay, all right.
But,
just take it anyway. Just grief the guild.
Yeah.
I think it's a
That would
hard
go
res to
over
our
very
Fury
well.
Warrior.
Hard res to the Fury Warrior along with Shadowmourne.
The Fury GM. Yeah. Unironically, yes.
Yeah, don't worry. I do want to talk about where should we talk about Shadowmourne? Should we talk about it now, or should we talk about it? Which boss is relevant to Shadowmourne?
I mean, it's kind of something
all
you
of
build
them.
throughout the raid. Yeah, there's
do
like
you get drops off all the bosses for it?
But the Shadowfrost shards drop off all the bosses, and then there's like some bloods you have to get off Festergut and Rotface, and then later in the chain you have to like empower it from Putricide,
Right.
Lana'thel, and Sindragosa, and then at the end you have to like kill Lich King. So it's like most of the bosses in the raid are like kind of related to it.
All right, let's go on the fucking 5-minute Shadowmourne tangent. We've got to have this conversation. We've joked about it the whole expansion about which classes are going to want it, and the fight between, the Death Knights and the Warriors and the Paladins for Shadowmourne, blah, 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 blah. Here we are, push has come to shove. Warriors are saying this is their time to rise up in ICC. The Warriors have been a bit of a joke for the whole expansion, and now, hopefully they do get their time in the sun. I'll leave it open to you guys first in best dressed on this one. How do you feel about the old Shadowmourne Prio argument? Is it just as simple as no, it goes to the most loyal guildies, the best players who've been there forever? Or, I mean, obviously that's always going to take you front seat, but then also when all things are equal amongst people of certain classes, do you gravitate towards a certain class to get Shadowmourne?
Death Knight Prio.
Yeah, talk to us about it, Kung. Why Death Knight Prio? Obviously because you play one.
Well, yes, and it's a Death Knight weapon.
Mm-hmm. State your case a bit more for why the
That's
Death Knights should get it.
argument I've heard.
Yeah, why should the Death Knights get it over the Warriors and the Pallies?
Well, they probably shouldn't. But with the changes they made with the drops, you can definitely give one to a Death Knight without feeling bad.
Mm-hmm. All right, how about you other guys? How do you feel?
So I'm in the camp of like, unless you're in like a hardcore speedrun guild, like if you've made a Shadowmourne, like you've pretty much beaten the game most likely. You probably have killed Heroic Lich King, or you're close to it by that point. So I mean, just give it to the person who deserves it most based on like contributions to the guild and things like that. Because like I feel like at this point of the game, like what you're gonna be building it like 2.5 months, 3 months into ICC. Like at that point, like you've kind of beaten the game. You don't need to like min max unless killing Lich King isn't really being the game for you. If you're like a speedrunner and getting the best time is beating the game for you, then of course like put on the class that has the biggest DPS contribution. But it seems like it's amazing for Red Pallies, it's amazing for Fury Warriors, and it's great for Blood DKs, or not Blood DKs, just DKs in general. But yeah, I mean, I think just give it to whoever's made the biggest guild contributions.
Fair enough. Wacklow, are you
I
looking
don't even
forward to
know
all the posts on the subreddit about it?
I think it'll be pretty low drama because it's going to be so abundant,
Okay.
Relative to some past legendaries we've had.
Like
I mean, I
Valithria.
don't even know is it Bis for Frost even? Is it just an unholy blood weapon?
Yeah, only on Holy Blood.
Only unholy blood. Then even less demand for it. There's still a lot of Frost DKs. Yeah, I mean, like Subtle said, unless you're speedrunning, in which case I imagine you'd funnel it to your ret, because I don't think speedrunners are running a lot of Furies. I don't really know anymore. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Like a lot of end game items, it's a vanity item. The only exception I make is if you're not like a big PvP guild, you have one warrior who's like glad. I think it's probably, even if he's like new this expansion, you have another warrior who's been there since vanilla. Like, if someone's actually going to get a lot out of it in PvP, I think generally like you should be giving early legendaries to them. But otherwise, I don't think it really matters all that much. It's just a feel good weapon.
Yeah. So is this just the new Valinir? Like they're actually going to be rather abundant?
Yeah, they made some changes. I can't remember the exact changes, but I think significantly increased the drop rate of Shadowfrost shards. They allow them to drop before you've completed the Festergut Rotface part of the quest. Maybe some other things, but that's going to significantly bring down the time it takes to create one. Before, you needed to do like the whole 25 Primordial Serenite part before you could start collecting, but now you just get them no matter what. So
Hey,
it's a lot easier.
Just before we go back to the bosses, another really, really quick tangent, guys. I'm sure you've seen some of the info coming back from the PTR about like the Ulduar loot and its availability from vendors and whatnot. I think that is different to how it used to be. Is that right? How do you guys feel about all that?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm kind of a fan of it. It's pretty tough to get people to run Ulduar these days because we've just done it so many times. And like when you go into Ulduar, I mean, generally the plan is like you kind of kill Algalon, you kill Kolagharn just because you have to, you kill Vez just because you have to, you kill Yugg Zero. That's kind of a standard run. And then almost always Memoron's like also added to that. But then anything outside of that, it's a lot of moaning and groaning if you're like the one person that like needs something from any other boss. So it's tough to get people to do a lot of those other bosses. And so I think it's good at this point. Like Ulduar is pretty outdated now. It'll be two tiers ago. So like putting that stuff on the vendor, I think is good. And they've got a random dungeon finder coming out. I think participation's already going to be really high with that, but putting that like 252 Ulduar gear on the vendor too, like the participation with random dungeon fighters just gonna be through the roof, I think.
Just to throw a spanner in the works and get your brain turning a little bit here, Wacklow, and I'll get Kung to comment on this as well. It is one of those moments where, and obviously they're very different games, and that's perfectly fine. That's why we've been given Wrath Classic, because, you know, Wrath is not vanilla and whatnot, and that's fine. They're very different, you know, types of games for different types of players, so to speak. But it does create an interesting conundrum for the player to ask them how they feel about, well, you know, you didn't get the drop that you were looking for in a certain raid. That's okay. Here's the next raid tier. You can just buy it with tokens. You know what I mean? As opposed to like the vanilla system where we've still got people running BWL ad nauseum up until the end of the game trying to get like that mind quickening gem or what have you, for example. I'm personally a fan, call me, you know, fucked up, but I'm personally a fan of like the vanilla system where it's like, you know, have the drop be the drop and not necessarily make everything purchasable for everyone. But that's me. And I appreciate what Subtle's saying in terms of like, you know, you want to increase engagement as well. Not everyone got the flare and it's got a very low drop chance, blah, 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 blah. Just let everyone do their thing. How do you feel about the differences between the two delivery systems?
So I don't like Wrath really at all compared to the two that came before it. I'm not going to play Kata. Kata, I think if you like Wrath, is going to like surprise a lot of people for the better, because I think it is Wrath with a lot of like, you know, improvements and not a lot of changes to like the core gameplay loops of Wrath, if that makes sense. But I am like a total partisan for the first two. I really like, they're very different, but I really like TBC. And I like classic vanilla just a little more than TBC. So I'm totally with you in that I think it's cool. For instance, the people were farming BWL even into TBC to try to get Mind Quickening Gem for PvP. That said, in the context of Wrath, like the game we're playing, especially given the changes they've done in the past to make catch-up gear widely available, it would be unusual and kind of a drag to have to go back to Ulduar to try to farm your flare in the last phase of the game. So I think it makes sense. I think like overall, people will be happy with it. Even I'm happy with it. I don't really want to go back into Ulduar at this point. But I am just disappointed overall. Apart from this broader conversation, I'm disappointed in the direction the game took in Wrath. I didn't realize quite how big of a change it would be from TBC toward more sort of modern MMO gameplay.
Fair enough. Kung, I'll throw it to you and just add on this comment as well, because it really does sort of make the player think also about another system that's become very popular, which is GDKPs, but forgetting the gold factor with GDKPs, it's really just asking a simple question to the player of, do you want to quote unquote earn your loot via a low drop chance, but also, some might argue be, quote unquote, held captive by a loot council, or would you rather things just be purchasable like they are here?
I like both systems, to be honest, but the way they pace out this purchasable items is perfect, if you ask me. Like, we've seen 2 comets in the last 2 or 3 months, and the ones missing it being able to farm it themselves, it's perfect, if you ask me.
Okay, fair enough. So it'll bring us home on this one. When I bring in the wrinkle of the overall concept of GDKP being, you should be able to be the master of your own destiny in terms of, you have the purchasing power for, if you do the time, you should purchase whatever you want in the fucking game, versus keeping things rare, keeping them, low drop chance or at the behest of a loose council. How do you feel now, having played through everything? Oh, you're muted, big boy.
I can't hear you.
Sorry.
You're good. You're good now.
We're good. Honestly, I'm kind of indifferent. I think I actively raid in like both systems, like Loot Council and GDKP every week, and I mean, I played through like all of Classic, where we didn't have these like systems where you could buy things from the vendor. Like after that tier was kind of outdated, and I don't know. Like I kind of enjoyed like going back and blasting MC a little bit, and AQ 40 gear to get Thunder Furies, and but at the same time, I also love running 5-mans and just farming those out. So I mean, I guess really I'm just kind of indifferent. Both ways are fine for me.
I mean, I would take blasting 5-mans with guildies any day over going back to Ulduar for another 2 months.
Fair enough. All right, guys, thanks for that tangent. Let's get back to bosses. Festergut. Is it kind of the case, aka patchwork? Is that basically how it works, or what's going on here?
No, not really.
Okay.
So yeah, there's it's definitely not just like a total tank and spec. He does hit the tank really, really hard though. So it is similar in that regard. But there's no like hateful strike mechanic or anything like that. There's also like a big AoE that's going to go out, and like throughout the fight, people are going to get a spore debuff, and they have to like move close to other people and hit them with the spore so that they get a debuff that like reduces the damage they're going to take from that big AoE later on. And they got like stack that up throughout the fight. And it's kind of a unique fight because as the fight goes on, rated damage starts high. Like raid damage taken starts high, and tank damage is low, and that it like slowly shifts towards 0 raid damage and really high tank damage. So like as he like sucks up the gas in the room. So it's kind of interesting in that regard. And then it's a pretty interesting tank fight too, because he's putting a debuff on the tank that increases their damage done by 10% per stack, and he does this about every 12 seconds. And if you reach 10 stacks, you just blow up and wipe the raid. So you have to make sure you don't get too many stacks, but you're getting this big damage buff. And you can cheat that onto like your DPS too. Like you can have like a Feral Druid and like full cat gear start tanking at the beginning of the fight when the boss is doing very little damage, and they can get some stacks, and then you've got like a cat druid doing 30, 40, 50% extra damage for a while, which is a pretty huge gain. So I always kind of like mechanics like that, where you have a lot of creativity with like how you can like manage them and get like a lot of raid damage by handling them differently.
Okay.
But I mean, it's honestly a pretty simple fight, but there's a bit to it. It's a good one. I like it as a tank.
Okay. How about you other guys? Wacklow, fun or not fun?
Fun for now. I'm guessing it won't be fun over time. As a DPS, it's a little more boring. There's a mechanic where these like spores spawn on people, and you have to make sure that like the tank has to get hit by one, and all the DPS have to get hit by one, and there's a little, movement and something to do there. But for the most part, it's like that. On heroic, there are these things that spawn on the floor that you have to move out of, and otherwise it's pretty simple. Another complaint I have about this guy is like I can't keep him and Rotface straight. I don't even know. Yeah, we're talking about Festergut. They have the same model. They look exactly the same, and they're in like the same room, just like replicated twice over. So I think they took a bit of a shortcut there. But the fight itself is fine. Not horrible, not my favorite, and I'd say on the easier side, all things said.
All right, Kung, how about you? Any comments on Festergut?
So melee, it's definitely, I would say, annoying. Seeing on heroic difficulty, Putricide throws this goo on the floor that you have to move from leg to leg to. And it can happen quite frequently on the melee stack. So you have to keep an eye out, and it's kind of hard to see where the goo is landing.
Okay.
It's a really small green circle, and so like the melee just completely cover it. But yeah, it's
we're moving from leg to leg on every goo either way. But
yeah, like
still very hard to see,
on
especially
check,
when it syncs up with a spore.
Any notable?
Yeah, and it's also huge. It's like twice the size of the visual on the floor.
Just on that, I'm not sure if this was hearing what you guys are saying, but I'm not sure if this was the start of it. But certainly in expansions to come, people will be divided on this. This will be controversial, but like the one thing I don't like about later WoW raiding, as the game became more difficult and more raid mechanics became available and the game pushed you more as an individual player, is I think it's certainly not unheard of around the comments and forums and whatnot that WoW doesn't always do a fantastic job of telegraphing to the player what is going on with the mechanic, when like some AoE damage is going to come out here, or don't stand here because something bad's going to happen, fucking whatever. Whether, or even just a debuff or whatnot. Like WoW sort of just hides the info a little bit more in terms of that stuff as opposed to other MMORPGs. Like I really, really like the way that Final Fantasy XIV does it. Now, a lot of people will say Final Fantasy XIV babies the player in terms of how fucking bright and obvious the do not stand in this area, a fire is about to be here marker is. I call me a fucking noob or whatever, but I like that. The game, like, it still catches people out, bizarrely, because sometimes you have to move very quickly and whatnot. But WoW not only asks you to have good reaction times, but also asks you to have, at times, this extra special talent of actually being able to see this shit. Like the very, very light, a pebble moved under my foot. That means a rock slide's about to be here or something. Like, it's fucking hard. How do you guys feel about WoW's graphical telling the story to the player about danger versus maybe what you've experienced in other games?
I kind of like it, honestly. It's sort of, I think it kind of like kills the immersion when there's just like these giant like kind of neon colors like showing you like the exact area something's gonna happen. I kind of like if a dragon just breaths, like you just see like the fire animation come out. You don't see like this 90-degree angle like covered in red.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Like shows you the exact spot kind of thing. So I think I'm more in the camp of like the like little bit of hidden information, but like at the same time when it is just something like a like the Festergut one we're talking about, where it's like a green little pool on the ground kind of thing, like that kind of thing, I guess you can make that a little bit more accurate maybe, but in general I think I like it.
Oh, and that's fine. Like I said, this will be a controversial one because I don't think a lot of people will agree with me. I think more people will probably agree with you, Subtle. Wacklow, how do you feel about it?
So I don't have any high level experience in any other MMO, but I feel like as long as the mechanics are relatively easy, and I'd say everything I've come across in Classic WoW is fit that criterion. It's not a huge deal if there aren't these like amazing visual tells, as long as you can see them if you're paying attention. Um, yeah, I think because, it's not Dark Souls, the gameplay isn't based off of like reacting to animations. The reactions are usually to like cast bars or like something appearing on the ground or like, the boss changing color or something like that. I feel like usually it's clear enough and you usually have so much leeway in terms of positioning that it's not like all that important to know exactly where the edges of hitboxes are, as opposed to like, Hollow Knight, Dark Souls, like those sorts of games that rely on actual precision gameplay.
Kung, do you have any strong feelings on this one?
I always feel like the more obvious the marker is, the more damage it should do, or the deadlier it would be. And if it's not very obvious, it shouldn't be that deadly.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right, guys, let's move on. Thank you for entertaining me on that little sidetrack. Let's talk about Rotface now. We've done Festergut. Let's talk about Rotface. Who's the more engaging encounter between the two abominations? Subtle?
Festergut for sure, at least from tank perspective. Rotface, you literally just stand in the middle the entire time, and you move him when like the ooze explodes briefly, and then you move back to the middle. That's about it. There's another tank or hunter, ideally, like kiting the big ooze like in a circle around the room, and then the ranger kind of spread out. There's really not too much going on this fight. I think is definitely one of the top 3 easiest in the raid. Maybe 4, because there's like, I guess like Marrowgar, Gunship, Valithria. I don't know. It's in that grouping though, for sure.
Is this the battle for the loot? Who gets the tag for loot pinata in ICC?
Gunship, if that counts, for sure, right?
Yeah, Gunship should really be on its own tier. Like it's the clear easiest, and then I guess in that next tier is like Marrowgar, and Rotface and Valithria.
Wacklow, anything on this one? Wacklow, can you hear me? Anything on this one?
Sorry, I thought you said
Rotface?
tongue. Rotface, I mean, again, why'd they give him the exact same model? He's like a little lighter or something. As a DPS, it's a little more interesting than just like moving on explosion. There are these oozes that spawn, and you have to bring the small ones together, and then they form a big one. Then you have to bring the small ones to the big one, and then eventually they explode, and you can't be near them. You have to move out of some green shit that spawns on the floor. It's like it feels a little like Grob from Nax, but it's definitely on the easier end. If you stand in the goo or if you don't know how the slimes work, you can wipe. But I think it's, for how deep it is, pretty easy compared to like everything around it.
All right. Kung, anything on this one? I mean, I can't even see. What do we got loot wise as well? Like, there's a couple of weapons to drop, which are always fun. But how do you feel about this one, Kung?
There's not much to say, to be honest.
Yeah.
You can't really wipe unless healer Fat Fingers cleanse on you.
Fair enough. Well, Kung, I'll get you to start us off on Professor Putricide then. Now, I don't know anything about ICC. Like I say, I've not done ICC before, but a lot of people, they talk about the Lich King, obviously, but I've also found that a lot of fucking people bring up Professor Putricide when they talk about ICC. Tell me why, Kung?
It's definitely on the harder part of the encounters, I would say. And probably an iconic one from the Wrathgate, right?
So what makes this one so hard?
Ray damage, that you have to split on the oozes in the intermission phase, and the final DPS check in the final phase can be kind of hard if you're not geared enough.
Did you guys struggle on PTR?
Yeah, we didn't get him heroic actually.
Okay, fair enough.
We didn't either.
Yeah, Wacklow, tell us about your trials and tribulations with you guys on PTR with this guy.
He's just, I mean, sort of similar to Deathwhisper, except the mechanics are actually kind of challenging, and the damage requirement is a lot higher. There's just a lot going on, and yeah, we had a lot of different people mess up. Thankfully, on normal, it's significantly easier, but it's pretty tough on heroic. I don't know. It's hard to say, not having downed it. I mean, maybe when I was at this point in Maru Prague, I would have said the same thing, but I don't know if I've had the same degree of trouble in a heroic that we had with our foray into Putricide.
All right, Subtle, let's do the deep dive. I'll say the word that maybe you guys aren't comfortable saying, but is it fair to term that Professor Putricide is just a fucking cunt of a boss?
I would say so, yeah. Certified cunt for sure.
Very good. Tell us why. What's going on?
So most of my experience is 10-man heroic for him. The groups I've done have like not had much time left in the raid by the time we've like been doing polls on him, so it's just mostly been normal on 25-man. But we did actually have a bugged 10-man heroic that was doing the damage of 25-man heroic last time I did him.
Very good.
So that was pretty interesting. It was essentially mythic Putricide. So his Unbound Plague mechanic, which is like his new heroic mechanic, it's basically like a 1 minute damage over time that ramps up 25% like compounding damage every second. And so you need to like spread it out. Like you need to pass it to somebody before it gets too high and like kills you. That was doing the damage of his 25-man version in our ID on 10-man heroic. So it was doing 4 times more damage than it was supposed to. And then his last phase mechanic, there's like a tank swab. It's like a debuff also compounding 25% increased damage per stack. But that one deals damage to the whole raid. And that one was also doing 4 times more damage than it was supposed to. It was his 25-man heroic value. So hopefully that'll get fixed too. But our best pull was like 2%, which was kind of crazy on 10-man with 25-man damage values. So I think 25-man is going to feel a lot easier having like 15 extra people to pass that Unbound Plague to now. But yeah, this fight is pretty great. It's one of the best fights in there for sure. There's several phases. There's a lot going on. There's also like an Abomination. Somebody's controlling like this pet basically the entire time, or at least until the last phase. And that pet is in charge of like slurping up the slime that's on the ground, and they gain a resource, like an energy resource from picking up that slime, and then they use that to slow the oozes that will spawn. So, and more oozes spawn on 25-man because in the transitions, instead of the raid getting stunned, you get 2 oozes that spawn. So the A-bomb player kind of has to figure out like good energy management so that they can make sure they have slows for like the transition oozes and then all the other oozes. And then the A-bomb also does a ridiculous amount of damage too. Like they can easily be your number 1 overall damage if the boss is like positioned well for them. So if you're like tanking Putricide next to the A-bomb the whole fight, like the A-bomb, it does crazy damage. It's like auto attacking for like 10k. It's like doing an instant attack every second for like 12k, and it just pumps. And you can buff it too. You can throw like Blessing and Might on it. So the fight's really cool because like at every level there's a lot of like ways people can like min-max what they're doing, and the A-bomb player like really learning what to do, and then the main tank working well with the A-bomb, like creating good spots for the A-bomb, like tanking it by slime puddles and stuff. That's a huge part of the fight as well. So, and then there's a lot of like raid responsibility, like the green ooze, you got to stack for that so that you split the damage of it. The orange ooze needs to be kited until it's killed. If it catches the person it's chasing, it blows up and you wipe. So there's a lot going on in the fight. It's a really, really fun fight, though.
Wacklo, what were you seeing most people fucking up on this one?
Like on the oozes, particularly, which one sort of freezes you and walks toward you? The orange?
The green one.
That's the green one.
The green? Yeah, I mean, we fucked up on the green one a few times. It just, like, got all the way there. I don't know. There were just, like, so many points of failure. It was also, like, farther along in the raid. So I think people were a bit tired. But I'd say, like, handling the oozes was probably, unfortunately, our most common fuck up. But that's just because we weren't making it deep into the fight.
Alrighty. Does he at least, Kung, does he at least drop some fucking shit hot loot for your efforts, or not so much?
It drops a nice little trinket for the Ret Paladin.
Yeah, Subtle's agreeing with you. What is it?
Tiny abomination.
Tiny A-bomb jar.
Oh, very good. What does it do?
Basically, like, your attacks create motes of anger, and then if you have the heroic version, once you get 7, you proc like a 50% weapon damage attack. But Pallies have a lot of random things that count as physical attacks that proc these modes of anger.
Yeah, because I was going to say,
so, like,
just a weapon swing on its own every 8 swings giving you a half attack doesn't sound too wild, but there's obviously extra slice to it.
Yeah, it's when you get into the nitty gritty, like, really weird stuff with how Pallies work. So, like, basically your judgment procs a mote, just like the judgment itself, and then your SOV dot application that your judgment procs also procs a mote, and then your SOV instant damage that your judgment procs also procs a mote, and then if you're prop ally, your judgments of the just also procs a mote, which procs when you cast judgment. So every time you judgment, you're getting like 4 modes, and there's other, and then like every time you're like swinging, like auto attacking, you're applying like SOV dot and SOV instant too. So you're just getting motes like crazy like the entire time. And then prop allies have like reckoning too, so you're double hitting a lot. So I mean, it's insane for Ret. They definitely get it first, but it's an amazing prop ally trinket as well.
So a Ret Pally with this plus Shadowmourne is just like clear the fuck out.
Yeah, and the 2-piece bonus too. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, is that the one that procs Divine Storm cooldown?
Yeah. If they have all 3 of those, they're gonna be.
Fuck! Look out! Subtle's getting like a little bit hot and heavy under the collar here. He's like, I'm getting all flustered.
I don't even play Ret Pally, but like just like the thought of all that damage. Oh my god!
Yeah, Subtle's table is rising. You all can't see this, but yeah.
that's why I zoomed in the cam a little bit, trying to not get you demonetized.
That's
Josh.
the way. That's the way. Oh, mate. All right. Let's move on from Putricide, and let's talk about is Blood Prince Council a quick one?
Yeah, pretty quick.
Not really.
No, really.
Know. Okay. I mean, I think it's like one of the hardest fights in there.
Oh, please do tell.
Oh, interesting. Why do you think it's one of the hardest?
I mean, so maybe I'm wrong, but I mean, on 10 min, it took us, I think, like 5 to 7 pulls for most groups for heroic. But looking at some of the 25 mans, it seems like it was pretty difficult. Like, obviously, it seems like it's pretty replicatable. So, like, once your group like really learns it, then it's really not too bad. Like each kill after that, but it seemed like the learning curve for it was gonna be pretty high in 25 man. But maybe that's not the case because I haven't done it on heroic in 25. But it's just a very mechanics heavy fight. So,
Wacklo, tell us your experience.
I mean, there's a lot of distinct mechanics for sure. I mean, each of the 3 has their own, and then like when they rotate between the 3 of them being empowered, and only the empowered one sort of functionally can take damage. That's like the conceit of the fight. But I didn't think anything was that bad. I mean, we did struggle on it a bit, but Yeah, I didn't think any individual mechanic was that bad or as like a whole. The only thing I think makes it, well, I mean, this is true for every fight, but the heroic variant like makes it a lot harder than the normal. The only thing besides the fact that there's just way less damage on normal that's different on heroic, I think, is that there's this stacking debuff you get that makes it so basically when you move, you take damage. And when you move, you also get more stacks of the debuff. So the more you move, the more punishing it is for you to move. And you have a lot of melees at first, just pressing like, AD, 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 not used to this and killing themselves. But even if you play it right, the fact that you get punished for moving in terms of raid damage does make it like harder to manage the million other mechanics going on. But like the big ones are pretty straightforward. Like there are these things that go up and down in the room, and you have to hit them to sort of like bounce them up toward the ceiling, or else they hit the ground and explode and on heroic wipe you. And that, except for the fact that it's kind of hard to see unless you like do the zoom console command, wasn't that challenging. There's one where there's like a big fireball that goes towards someone in your raid randomly, and you have to like stack between them and the fireball, or it like does a bunch of raid damage and one shots them. Yeah, all just I'd say like fairly straightforward mechanics that are also fairly clear visually. So yeah, I'd put this again in the category of like similar to Deathwhisper, there's a lot going on, but unlike Putricide, it's not like you're trying to meet like healing checks or DPS checks in addition to everything that's going on. It's just like going through the choreography of the fight.
Okay, Kung, you're gonna have to split the. We've got a split vote here. You're gonna have to be the decider. What are we talking here with Blood Prince Council? Easy mode or actually tough?
It's tough until you get to learn the dance of the fight. But when you know where you need to go when different shit happens, you can get it done very easily.
Alrighty. Anything that you heard there, the guys say that resonated with you and your experiences in PTR so far?
Definitely the stacking debuff when you move can be very hard to stop ADing as a melee DPS.
What mechanics outside of that? Any other things that were obvious that people kept fucking up in your runs, Kung?
We had a few wipes of pets bugging out or just running haywire, not hitting the kinetic balls that will wipe you.
All right.
And I think that was our biggest problem, to be honest.
Alrighty. Guys, how's the loot? Is it ho-hum or what? Is Crypt Maker your consolation prize for the person who's not getting Shadowmourne?
Crypt Maker is really good, yeah. I think they'll use that and I forget the name, Glaren Zog or something like that from Lich King if they don't have Shadowmourne.
Alrighty.
There's a really good fire ring, but
what do you fire mages?
Sure. Yeah, it's a hit ring, I think, with like a gem slot. It's very good.
Ooh, nice. All right, let's move on. Blood Queen Lana'thel. I know fucking nothing about this boss. Anything of note here? Wacklow, you kick us off.
Mechanically, I'd say one of the easiest fights in here. On heroic, it's a pretty significant DPS check and healing check. There's a damage mechanic that on heroic ramps up over time, and so you really like have to get it down within a window of time. And there's also a couple mechanics that require some movement on the part of your DPS. So it's not like a straight tank and spank, but I'd say definitely one of the more straightforward fights in here. And the vampire mechanic where you get a debuff before it ticks down, you have to like bite someone, and then there's like increased damage, just flat increased damage associated with that. Is a lot of fun. I'm sure there'll be a lot of bickering over who gets this vampire buff.
Oh, is this one of those fights? I see. Okay. Subtle. Yeah, how do you guys go with the juggling of the who gets the damage buff?
Back in the day, I played a rogue and I just told them I was getting it first, so I got it first every time, and I did a lot of damage. It was really fun. And back then there were no like Warcraft logs or rules, so just like whoever did the most damage was actually like the number one on the logs. So I think that was my best log ever back then. I think I was like top 10 world for Lana'thel damage, and just because I got the first bite every time. So you were part of a smaller group who had a very good chance to be top damage for that fight.
Yeah.
But I mean, from back in the day, it was such a fun buff to have, because like you do like 100% more damage. It is super, super fun. But I'm sure there's some simming out there that tells you the exact right class that should get it. I haven't looked at that, but yeah. Well, I mean, whoever does the most damage with it, give it to them, I guess.
Fair enough.
Probably like Athley. It always is.
The Athley lock?
That would be my guess.
Yeah.
We just gave it, I think, to our highest DPS, then like ticked down.
Well, Kung's going to say DK Prio.
Oh, my raid leader made our prio list for the bite, and after the raid I noticed I wasn't even on it, so it's kind of molding about it.
And then you noticed you weren't even on the roster, and you said, hey, hang on.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Anything else of note with this fight? What's going to trip people up?
Probably putting the fires in the wrong spot. So basically you get a debuff that places a fire under you, and if you're out a melee, it doesn't move out immediately. You will put fire in the melee and probably kill everyone.
Alrighty. You other guys, anything on this?
It's mostly just kind of a DPS check. Like you gotta just kill her before they enrage. That's about it. But
pump.
As long as like all the bites are being handled correctly and like they aren't dying, then you keep everybody up. You do the bites correctly, you should kill it.
Very good. Yeah, go right below.
Mechanically.
Okay. Any notable loot?
A lot going on mechanically. Yeah.
Any notable loot? What do we got here?
Bauble is
There's
probably
a really
the most
good
sought after.
trinket. Yeah, it's like PvP trinket specifically, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not any good in PvE, but it's insane in PvP. You can use it when silenced.
Heal.
It's just a flat heal, yeah.
Oh, my old enhanced shaman would have fucking loved that. Hell yeah. Nice.
Why your enhanced shaman?
Sorry?
Why on an enhanced shaman?
Oh, just because that's what I was PvPing on when I played Wrath. So like I'll take all the heals I can get. Couldn't you theoretically? I mean, again, I haven't played fucking enhanced shaman in Wrath for 6 months, but couldn't I theoretically build up my stacks, get an instant cast heal of my own, and then use the trinket as well if you were low? That I'd always take all the heals I can get. I don't know in PvP.
Oh yeah, for self heal. Yeah,
for self-healing.
It's been a rough couple of months, I'd say, for Enhance and Wrath PvP.
Really?
Enhance has really fallen off a cliff.
Oh no, my poor enhanced brethren. I'm so sorry. All right, guys, let's get to the meat of it. We are now looking at, see if I can fucking get it again. All right. I've lost it. What are we up to? Now we're up to Valithria. Yes. Subtle, kick us off. What's the deal?
So this is a really unique fight because you actually complete the fight by healing a boss up instead of damaging them down. So basically, you're gonna bring some extra healers for this, mostly like pallies, holy pallies. They go into a portal, they fly around, they get stacks that increase their healing, and eventually they get a ton of stacks. You drop some cooldowns on Valithria and you heal for like millions. So yeah, it's kind of a weird fight. For the rest of the raid, it's like an ad fight. You're just dealing with ads that are coming out from the sides of the room, and just kind of they're dealing with their mechanics. Like there's a lich that like does an AoE mana burn frostbolt, so you gotta like interrupt that. And then there's these ghouls that come out that try to reduce healing done on the dragon. And so you're kind of just killing all the ads if you're not one of the healers.
Very good, very good. Kung, fun or not, this one?
Definitely not.
Not fun.
No, it's just an ad boss where you have to run around and handle your ads and then sit around waiting for new ads.
Yep. Subtle's nodding along. Wacklow, thumbs down on this one.
Yep.
Maybe if I were a Holy Pally, I'd think it's fun, but as a DPS, it's not fun. You just sit there DPSing the ads.
Right.
Even if you're kind of lazy, it probably doesn't matter if you have a good group overall. It's just a kind of a boring fight, I think, unless you're a healer.
So if we had the healers in here, Subtle, would they be like, oh, Josh is the fucking greatest fight in the fucking game. It's great.
Probably. I mean, I can totally see how it would be super fun as a healer. Like you're just healing for millions, and that sounds kind of fun. So it's probably a fun healer fight.
No, I love the
Really tough fight on PTR from EU. The ping made it so that it was like very hard to get the stacks on a healer. You'd be like inside the particle effect, and it wouldn't proc.
all good. All good. Now, look quickly, any loot on this one? Let's have a look. Valithria, what do we got? Dagger. Doesn't look like anything.
It's a really good tank ring.
Oh, yeah?
Like extra armor tank ring, which is really good for like Lich King and Sindragosa. Just like all the harder like hitting bosses.
Yeah, all good, all good. All right, let's get to the fun stuff, hopefully, I think. Sindragosa. Wacklow. Fun, not fun?
Haven't actually done Sindragosa or Lich King, but
Okay.
Looks fun.
All right.
Looks like it would be like very easy on normal, very hard on heroic. It's like a couple things that are very similar to Saffron, but way more intense of a fight.
All good, all good. Kung, thumbs up, thumbs down for Sindragosa?
Thumbs up, definitely thumbs up.
Yep. Very good. What makes it fun for you?
The ice buck mechanic is always fun to blast your friends, even if you're freeing them. But yeah, hitting escape when you get lots of stacks isn't very fun though.
Very good. Subtle, you agree? Fun for Sindragosa?
I think like overall it's fun. The fight really drags on though, like until you're to the final phase, because you're just like slowly like repeating the same things over and over again, and it's not super challenging. But the final phase, there's like an extra mechanic or two extra mechanics, I guess, that make the already existing mechanics kind of amplified. And so by the end of it, the last phase is really fun. I think that's it's pretty awesome. Is probably one of the best phases in ICC for sure. There's just a lot going on. It's all very high stakes, and there's a random element to it too. So basically in the final phase, the whole raid's getting a ramping magic damage taken increase debuff, and random people in the raid are going to get ice blocked, and the raid can LOS like the magic debuff by hiding behind the ice block. And there's also I think the caster mechanics going on at the same time, where like you cast spells and then you blow up. I can't quite remember.
Yeah, I think that never stops going from what I've read about it.
Yeah, I believe that's a thing, and even at the final phase. So there's quite a bit to manage, and then the tanks are taking a lot more damage because she has a really high damage frost breath, and you're getting, increased magic damage taken stacks. So that frost breath is hitting a lot harder. And so there's really, really important tank swaps and like CD management. So the final phase of the fight is really, really good, but it honestly is kind of a snooze fest until that point.
So you wouldn't term it as a difficult fight?
Last phase makes it worth it. Oh, it's the probably second or third most difficult in there.
Okay.
The only two others being like Putricide and Lich King. But yeah, Putricide would be either 2 or 3, and then Sindragosa.
So even with the difficulty, it can be a little bit of a snooze fest.
So like most of the difficulty is that final phase.
Yeah.
So, but it's a long fight. Like I think, at least in like heroic 10-man, like my kills I think have been like 8 or 9 minutes. So Like, I mean, you're doing like the pretty easy phases for like 5 to 6 minutes, and then you're only spending a little bit of time on that actual like hard fun phase. So
Gotcha.
it kind of drags on. Yeah.
Okay.
Were you just running like Holy Disc for your healers?
For 10 man, we did 3 heals. We did Holy Pally, Disc, and we kind of just flexed whatever we had. I think in some groups it would have been like a Resto Druid, and some it would have been a Resto Shaman. But yeah, 3 heal definitely the way to go for 10 man. And from what I've heard from 25 man, you definitely want or 7.
I think some will do 8.
There you go. Yeah, I mean it's one of those fights where you can the enraged timer isn't a huge issue. It's more about just surviving, and with your healers getting like ice blocked and getting that Unchained Magic debuff too, it like limits how much they can heal. And then so yeah, just like bringing more healers is kind of the play for that fight.
Talk to me about these trinkets that drop off Sindragosa. I can see one that seems to be a PvP trinket, but there's another one there that's a caster trinket. Is that, I'm presuming it's going to be pretty desirable or not so much? Wacklow? The phylactery.
I'm pretty sure phylactery is this for, I can't say for all casters, but for a mage.
Okay, for sure.
And for basically all the crit haste casters, I think it'll be BIS.
Very good, very good. Does anyone use that PvP trinket? Is that like really good, or does it seem cooler than it actually
I think
is?
talk about the tank trinket.
Oh, is it a tank trinket?
Is
Sorry,
that-
it have tank viability? Absolutely, the magic resistance.
Wait, are you? Yeah, you talk about that huge stam trinket with the resist pop.
Oh,
Yeah.
the stam.
That
Yeah,
one-
of course. Sorry.
That is like the best tank trinket in the game. It is completely amazing. It's got a ridiculous amount of stam. That's our best stat. And then a 1 minute cooldown on a huge resist buff, which is super relevant in ICC, particularly for the Sindragosa fight. So, like, once you get that trinket from Sindragosa, it makes your future Sindragosas much, much easier. That trinket is like absolutely insane.
Oh, I can imagine. Sorry, call me out for being a weirdo. Do people use it for PvP as well or not?
Not that I know of, but maybe. I don't know.
Fair enough. Right. My bad. The tanking trinket, of course. Subtle is very
I think
offended.
the trinkets, everyone's like human with double offensive at this point. They're just too good.
Yeah. Fair enough. Okay. All right, guys, let's get to the big one. That's everything. Let's talk about Lich King. Look, just side note, is this one of those ones we've talked about a couple of the fights here with the RP, and obviously, like we know, the RP in the story is the huge theme of this raid. I can't remember for sure. How much RP do you go through in this fight? Does it seem another one where it seems like forever? There's no fast forward button. How does it work?
At the beginning, there's a bit of RP. I think it's about a minute of RP every
That's not
single
bad.
pull.
That's not bad.
So it, like we talked about with Saurfang, it's one of those fights where, like, when you're doing pulls on it, you want to just kind of, get the timer going a little bit early before everybody's fully ready, because they'll be ready by the time the minute's up. But that's the only like real RP until like the very end. Then there's a bit of RP you gotta go through at the end, and then so it's kind of bookended RP.
So what's like the quickest time you can finish the encounter in, because you got to take into account all the RP?
I mean, I don't even want to guess what speedrunning guilds are gonna kill it, and it'll be probably something pretty crazy. But I think most guilds, when you take into account like the RP at the beginning and end, it'll probably be about 18 to 20 minutes, something in there.
Yeah, so it still takes a while.
He enrages at like 15, but that is like a relevant timer. And you're gonna have a minute RP at the beginning, and I can't remember how much RP is at the end, but it's a decent amount.
Yeah, you might be able to cut the RP at the beginning. Like in Sunwell, you could hop through a bunch of terrain to Brutalis and like proc that RP and then just walk up and start him. So who knows what they'll find.
Alrighty. Kung, talk to me about the Lich King. Is it I mean, I think it goes without saying, everyone says, pardon me, hardest fight in here by a country mile. Is that fair to say, Kung?
Definitely on heroic, he hits like a freaking truck.
Yeah, so what is it that so blatantly sets this fight apart so further from all the others in terms of difficulty?
I think it's a numbers game, probably. From what I see, no one has killed him on heroic yet, and on current BIS tanking gear, tanks are surviving like 1 out of 10 pulls.
Subtle, is it day and
I've
night?
seen clips of tanks and like, sorry,
No,
I've just
you
seen
go,
tanks
Wackler.
get literally one shot, like full BIS.
Oh,
This
nice.
gear, this phase gear.
Very nice, very nice. Well, not if they have Subtle's favorite tanking trinket, then they'll be okay, maybe. Subtle,
Not if they have a very lucky.
It'll help a little bit, but yeah.
mate, is it day and night
tank
between?
get hit ridiculously hard on this fight. So there's like ads in the first phase, Shambling Horrors. They have like an enraged mechanic. They have 2, like one that's trankable and one that they do below 20%. And if you don't manage that well, you can actually just get one shot by them. Those are just the ads, not even like Lich King himself. And then like Lich King himself, he hits like ridiculously hard too. So yeah, it's definitely a chore to survive on that fight in like TOGC tanking gear.
Right. Is it day and night between this fight and whatever you would term as the second hardest fight in ICC?
Yeah, definitely. It's like a ridiculous step up, I think.
Okay.
I mean, nobody. I keep getting like conflicting info, but I don't think anybody publicly killed Heroic Lich King first PTR, and maybe this PTR. I'm pretty confident people have like killed it, but then purposely wiped at the end, but just to not give away info. But yeah, it's a ridiculously hard fight.
All right.
With the current gear.
Wacklow, go for it.
I thought people had killed it this PTR, but I saw some sort of chart after the first one, and like something like a couple dozen guilds, I think, had done Sindragosa hardcore, like a fair number, and no one had done Lich King, at least publicly, and I would assume not at all. So it's definitely a big step up.
I think the best guilds in the world probably have killed it, but not publicly logging it, obviously. But
yeah, I thought some of this time. Yeah, I thought I saw the like the achievement server wide thing pop on somewhere, but maybe that was for normal.
There is a screenshot of the achievement on Reddit, but it's only 3 people, so it's not really super accurate info.
So, well, somebody also said it only shows that for people on your layer. I don't know if that's true, but so it would only, like, if only 3 other people in the raid are on your layer, it would only show 3. But again, I don't totally know if anybody actually pops that for real or not.
Fair enough. So, Wacklow, what's going to bring everyone unstuck on Lich King? Oh, wait, sorry, you haven't done it. My bad.
Yeah, I haven't even pulled it.
My bad. Subtle, go for it.
So phase 1, like heroic, there's shadow traps that spawn under people, which are a really fun mechanic because if you don't move out of them in time, you get launched super far, and you actually get launched off of like the top of Icecrown Citadel, and you're just out of the fight, not battle resable. You go flying for miles. It's a pretty great mechanic. I love it. And there's also in the transition phases too, there's these like frost orbs that float towards people, and those ones also can knock you miles off of Icecrown Citadel. So both of those mechanics definitely A+. Any mechanic that just sends you flying for miles and miles, I think, is great. And phase 1, so you've got those shadow traps. If you're on heroic, if you're on normal, you won't have those. And kind of the biggest thing in phase 1 is the ad tank managing the necrotic plague debuff. So it's a debuff that needs to be cleansed off of a player within 5 seconds, or else they just get one shot. But it bounces to anything within like 5 yards. It's a really tiny range. So basically, somebody gets that debuff, you need them to bring it over to the ads. They get cleansed, it passes on to the ads, and then every time it kills something, it gets a stack, and it will do more damage in the future. So basically, your whole goal is like you're getting it to kill the ghouls that have like low HP really quickly, and then you get it up to high stacks, and then it's doing a lot of damage, and then you get it onto a Shambling Horror, which is like an ad with a lot of HP that you can't realistically kill without this debuff. And you get the stacks up, you kill the Shambling Horror with it, and you're going to get a couple, maybe up to 3 Shambling Horrors in phase 1, depending on your damage. So basically that whole phase, it really just comes down to the ad tank managing the Necrotic Plague and the ads correctly. But like I mentioned before, also, these Shambling Horrors can potentially one-shot you. So on top of like managing this plague, you're also trying not to die. And you're also trying to pick up the ads that spawn like on Lich King, like the ghouls do, and everybody's cleaving them. So like getting them over to you is a little bit of a chore too. So
is it just mayhem?
Yeah, it's not mayhem. There's very little going on in that phase. It's just there's a lot to do as the ad tank. That's kind of the main thing.
What kind of compositions are you expecting to see for this one, Subtle?
What kind of what? Sorry.
What kind of comps?
Oh, comps. So what I've seen a lot of people doing is like heavy Unholy Decay for like really big cleave and spreading the 13%, spell damage debuff to the ads to make them die even quicker. That seems to be good, but also a lot of people are bringing like locks, because later in the fight there's gonna be these Valkyr that swoop down, they pick up a player, and then they like fly over to like the edge and they drop them off if you don't do enough damage in time. But Warlocks can just put their portal like on the edge, and when the Valk drops them, they can just port back up. So you don't even have to kill that Valk at all, and just ignore that mechanic. So I think we could see a lot of like really heavy Warlock stacking, because then, I mean, Affliction Locks are already amazing, and then you also just literally don't have to deal with the mechanic if it picks them. Combat Rogues actually have kind of the same thing. They can Killing Spree the Valk as soon as it drops them, and their Killing Spree like slowly like moves them toward the target, toward the Valk as it's like flying back, and then it'll drop them like just on the edge of the platform. So there might be some other classes that have plays. I think like Warriors might be able to intervene too, but yeah, I think classes that can completely ignore Valks are probably going to be in high demand for that.
Too easy. Excellent. Kung, anything you want to talk about in terms of the Lich King here? Or you think, I mean, obviously the top guilds in the world are going to smash this out, but is this going to be like Algalon, on drugs? The average guild is just going to be drowning in tears?
Definitely Algalon on drugs here. I don't think we're even going to attempt it heroic first week, or even the second, for that matter.
I mean, how long until we get the cries to nerf it?
I mean, we have
they don't have to nerf it.
So
yeah.
Go on, Wacklow, sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying you don't have to nerf it, because they already have the the buff baked into the game. It's just a matter of when they ship the raid-wide buff, and that stacks up over time.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, so what he's talking about, just in case anybody doesn't know, back in the day, they released a 5% health, damage, healing, and absorb buff. It came out about every 2 weeks. I think the first buff came out maybe like 2 months after Lich King release. And that buff, it ramped up every 2 weeks. So it was 5%, then 10%, 15%, and it went up to 30%. I'm really hoping they don't even do that buff this time, with like how much better like modern players are. But I think it's probably coming, unfortunately. And when it does come, it's going to make ICC feel like pre-patch Sunwell, where things matter a whole lot less, which is pretty unfortunate, I think.
Yeah, given what happened with Vosh and KT, which were much, much easier raids and easier fights, I can't imagine they won't eventually ship this. But hopefully we get like a solid 2 months, maybe even more, before they nerf.
Now, Subtle, you've got to head off to a raid, my friend, don't you?
I do.
Yeah.
It's still filling up right now. I got a couple more minutes, I think.
No, well, that's good.
Pretty shortly.
I think we'll wind it up now. Look, guys, is there anything we really have to say about Lich King before we wrap it up? Have we left anything out?
Just that the only item that drops off him that matters is invincible.
Does he? Wait, I didn't actually know. Does he actually drop that?
He does, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
The mount.
Yeah, I know it's a mount. Yeah, I didn't actually realize he dropped his horse. Okay.
Yeah.
What's the fucking?
It's like the member
Yeah.
on the head. It's 100% drop rate, but then once this is no longer current, it goes down to like 1%.
Oh, okay, that's very cool. I seriously didn't know that. Any other notable loot from him? I mean, as the big bad of the game.
All the weapons.
I mean, pretty much
you
everything.
can dream of. Yeah.
Oh, he does drop all the weapons. Holy shit! Look at that loot table.
They're all 284 also, which is 7 eye levels higher than everything else in Ulduar.
Wow.
So they're very, very highbrow.
That's
the only
fucking
weapon
crazy.
you don't want to drop is tanking mace and dagger, I guess.
Yeah, the tank mace is
I'm
really
sure
bad. Like
sure we'll
tanks
get them
actually
too.
don't even want to use
Yeah.
the tank mace.
There you go. All right. Well, guys, look, we'll wrap it up there. Thank you so much for walking me through ICC. I feel like I know a little bit more about it now, a lot more about it, I should say. Thank you from all you amazing PTR testers and friends of the show. You guys have been fantastic. Subtle, mate, I'll let you kick us off with the goodbye, and please plug the living shit out of your channel. Where can we find you these days? What are you doing?
All right. Well, thank you for having me. It's been a little bit. I was super excited to come back to ICC. I love this raid. But you can find me on YouTube, Subtle FW, SUBTLE FW, or same name on Twitch. I make mostly prop high content, some prop warrior also, and I'll have gearing videos and raid guides for ICC coming out shortly. You can look for those, and then I'm always trying to like solo tank fights that aren't meant to be solo tanked and things like that. So we'll look for some more solo tank stuff in ICC too. And yeah, you can watch me live on Twitch. But yeah, thanks for having me. It's been a blast. Wacklow, great to see you again. And Kong, it was great to meet you.
Thanks so much, mate. It was
Great to see you too.
absolute pleasure. And, as I always say to people when you're on the show, obviously they can hear you on Countdown. They can hear you're a fucking great guy, very, very well versed with the game, very informative. But like everyone, if you haven't seen Subtle live on Twitch, if you haven't checked out his YouTube stuff, please go and do it. It comes with like the full Countdown to Classic, like recommendation, seal of approval. I love Subtle's content. Please go and check him out if you haven't already. So best of luck to you in ICC. So Wacklow, mate, thank you so much. You fucking legend. It's always great getting you on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Sorry, I felt like I kept interrupting you this time.
No, mate, do it.
but it was,
More people should do it.
Fun, very fun nonetheless. Like, hey, this is an amazing raid. I think it's going to be the best or one of the best of the trilogy. And yeah, really excited for it. And it was great to be here with you guys, Subtle and Gong.
Very good. No, more people should call me a cockhead and talk over the top of me. Trust me, I'd invite it. Absolutely. Kung, mate, your first time on the show. I hope we went easy on you.
It's been great. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you for not forgetting Wrath.
Yeah, I didn't forget Wrath. Absolutely. Any shout outs, Kung? Any guildies or anything?
Definitely shout out to Vendetta Horde on Gehenna CU. We're looking
good.
for raiders, speedrunners. Just apply.
Very good, very good. Sorry, Wacklow, I forgot to ask you any shout outs?
Oh yeah, shout out to Deep on Gehenna CU and Bury Me in a Gucci Bag on NA.
Very good. Subtle, anyone you want to tell to go fuck themselves?
Not in particular, but shout out to Fake P and Soth on Grobulus, my GDKP guild and my main guild.
Very good, very good. All right, guys. Look, Subtle, best of luck in the raid, and we'll talk to you all later.
Thank you for having me. It was a blast. Appreciate it.
All right, I've ended the recording there, guys. I'm still streaming live, obviously. Thanks so much, Subtle, mate. Again, late notice. I really, really appreciate it, mate.
Yeah, no worries, dude. I always love talking WoW, especially ICC. So anytime I can make it work timing wise, definitely down.
Yeah, I didn't get to throw in there. I didn't think we had the time, but whether or not I can't remember whether or not you told me if you're interested in playing Kata or not.
Yeah, super interested.
Oh,
actually.
there you go.
I'm really, really pumped for Kata.
Okay.
I just honestly I love all the first like 5 versions of the game, like
Yeah.
classic TBC Wrath, Kata, Mop.
Yeah.
I'm super down for any of those. They're all a little bit different, but in their own way, I like them.
There you go. All right. Well, look, I've got to go and grab Def Camp and Melderon and have a chat with those guys. But I will leave you lovely gentlemen here, and thank you so much. I'll produce that one in the next couple of days for the show.
Sounds great. Thanks for having me.
All right. Catch you guys.
See ya.
See you guys
ya,
later.
man.
Thanks.
Yeah.
All right, stream. Thank you so much for listening in. Huge thank you to the boys, Wacklow, Kung, and Subtle. They were fucking great, as you just heard. What we're going to do now is we're going to have a chat with Def Camp and Melderon. Let me just message them and see if they are good to go. Bear with me. You guys good to go? And I'll take a bio break and grab a drink. Hope you guys enjoyed that one. What do you think of that one? Is Subtle going to stream his raid tonight? I'm sure he is. He didn't say. I can't remember if he said he was going to stream it or not, but I'm sure he's going to. He normally does. All right, these guys are ready. Let me get started. Let's go like this. Where are we? Oh shit, my bad. What are we done here? That's what I want to do. Go to this one, and let's go check out. Yep. Okay. Let's just do this, and let's go call them.
Oh,
Yo, how are you, man?
good. How are you?
Good. Def, what's up? Can you hear me, brother?
Oh, yes.
What up?
What's up?
Hey, we're live already, by the way.
Oh, nice.
Throwing you
Excellent.
straight into the fire, absolutely.
Oh,
Hey,
yeah.
I literally just finished my ICC call. Do you guys mind if I just run to the toilet and grab a drink?
Do it,
No,
man.
of course not, brother.
Too easy. All right, I'll be back. You can babysit the stream. I'll see you in 2 seconds.
Too easy.
Alrighty.
Dude, too easy.
Wait, is he? So he's streaming?
Hello,
Why don't I-
stream. How are we doing today?
Why don't I see him live? Where the fuck? What's his
Why
name?
don't I
Is
see him live? What's his name? Josh Corbett?
it Josh Corbett?
Is it Josh Corbett? I don't know.
No, the stream, the Twitch stream.
Yeah.
Oh, I see it. I'm on Josh Corbett, but he's not streaming right now.
Oh, he's not? Is it on the countdown?
Is it called Countdown? Everyone in chat's probably telling us, but we can't see you. No. God damn it, dude.
Hold on. I should be able to see it. I'm not on stream real quick. 1 sec. Da-da-da, da-da-da. Where is he?
Yeah, it says Josh Corbett. When I search.
If anyone is online on Defies, Pillage, or Horde, whisper Def Camp and say, this is where he is.
Yeah, his last stream was 5 months ago.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that, guys.
Dude, this is
What are you
really.
streaming on?
Sorry?
What channel are you streaming on?
I'm on YouTube, baby.
Oh, you're on
YouTube.
YouTube.
Yeah, I left Twitch. I'm like, I'm fucking out of here. I'm over to YouTube. But I should be simulcasting to both, but I don't.
That's what
Okay.
I thought. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
We were like really embarrassed the fact that we didn't know. Okay, now we're on. Here we go.
Now you can see it. Yeah. All right.
Sweet.
Let me turn you guys up. Yeah.
What's up, boys? What's
All
up?
right, there we go. Okay. Are you guys pretty much ready to go? I guess we've already kind of started.
I am
haven't
ready
we?
to go, baby.
That's
Ready as I'll ever be.
That's it. All right, well, let's get fucking started. So I was hanging out online the other day, as you do, and, you know, playing a bit of fucking hardcore World of Warcraft, which I've been playing a lot of lately. And lo and behold, this level 52 rogue undead runs up by me a couple of times in Tannerus, and they've got the name of Death Camp. And I go, fucking look what the cat dragged in, rightio. But, you know, I'm playing a dwarf, so I can't talk to him. So I'm like, shit. So I jump on this fucker's YouTube stream, and he is simulcasting, I believe, between YouTube and Twitch. So I jump on his YouTube channel because I'm a fucking idiot. And I go, hey, dickhead, it's Josh. And he's got his Twitch chat up, not his YouTube chat, so he doesn't see my messages. And I'm like, oh, you son. And then he steals a mob from me, and I'm like, oh, you son of a bitch. I see how this is. And then a few hours later, I catch him in fucking Feralus. And I go, all right, I know what to do now. So I jump on his Twitch channel and I go, Buffhead, it's me, your boy. And he's like, fucking baby, where have you been all my life? And we jumped in stream. We had a beer together with his amazing fucking brother Melderon as well. And it was just like old times. And we chatted for a couple of hours, and we started getting each other very, very hungry, as well as we talked a lot of food. Yeah. Boys, Def Camp, Melderon, how the fuck are you?
Dude, it's so good to be here again, man. After so long, it's so good to be here, brother.
It's good to hear
I'm
your
doing
voice,
great,
Jeff.
man. Yeah.
Oh, man, you guys too. I mean, we were saying the other day, it's just like old times, right?
It really is, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, like, you know, I kind of wish... I kind of wish we were all like playing together. That'd be awesome. But you know, it's good enough that we're all at least playing the game again. You know.
Well, you motherfuckers won't play anything but fucking Horde,
dude. We're
well, okay. We did do Alliance for SON. We did do that, and I told Death Camp though I was bitching.
He said never
time,
again.
Josh.
Yeah.
I said I'm never playing Alliance again.
What was it?
Yeah.
What was it? Seriously.
Oh, what is it about the Alliance?
Yeah, that turned you off so much.
So I hate it. So I was going to get there. Hold on. I hate the questing.
It's terrible.
I think it's a very disjunct questing experience.
It's unfair, the difference between the two.
Yeah. What else? So that's the most practical thing I can say. Secondarily, I mean, there's no shaman, right?
Yeah, fair enough. That is fair. Paladin doesn't quite sing to you, big boy.
What's that?
Paladin doesn't quite sing to you.
Oh, I'm gonna piss a lot of people off right now.
Yeah.
Paladin is the worst experience I've ever had in this game, to be honest.
Yeah,
I don't think it's the worst. I actually enjoy.
What's worse?
Paladin healing a little bit.
What's worse?
I hate casters these days, so I'll take a Paladin over a
Paladin
caster.
to 60 and rated as a Paladin at 60. I've never done that as a druid.
Oh, but the third point, Josh, is that it's really hard for me to play on a faction where gnomes exist.
Look, I agree with you.
You forgot the best. You forgot the best thing, Melderon.
What?
Wind Fury.
Oh, and there's no Wind Fury.
Right.
No...
but salve, baby, salve.
I know.
We're fucking monsters. That's why.
It's like the fucking WoW equivalent of safe sex, blessing of salvation.
That's true. I mean, it is safer, but man, dude,
I
imagine
you prefer to live on the wild side.
It clears like the content, you know, like all the content, like a hardcore Horde guild, because you know everything's gonna be more difficult on Horde.
Is that the plan to try and do a bit of hardcore raiding Horde side?
Yeah, for me at least.
Yeah,
not me, but yeah.
Get some Wind Fury aggro and die an honorable death.
And die. Yeah,
we'll get one shot. Yeah,
it'll be great.
No, I'm halfway joking, Josh. Like I'm not saying I didn't enjoy my time playing Alliance with my brother. It was fun. it just doesn't feel. It just feels weird, you know.
No,
it just doesn't feel right.
But so much of what you're saying is right. Like, I completely agree with you, mate. I played a gnome for the first time ever, like a year ago, right? I forget what I rolled. I think I did a gnome rogue or something, and I fucking hated it. And I was just like, because I play an inordinate amount of time on max zoom, right? And I literally can't see my character, and it's like
you go
playing
behind a bush and you're gone.
yeah, and I'm doing my full like Zoolander moment of what is this? A game for ants? You know what I mean?
You gotta love that error speech too. I can't cast that yet.
Oh my god!
It's not recharging.
So gnomes easily. It's not even just like I'm not doing like the weird WoW player gamer thing of like delete gnomes. Like no, they're just like practically speaking a horrible race. But anyway. So I agree with you there, and yeah, the leveling process is fucking disgusting compared to the simple, straightforward journey that Horde get. Now, let me ask you this though, Melderon, and I'm sure Death Camp will have something to say about it. You know, it's funny to sort of sit here and lambast paladins, and I've been really, really intrigued lately by the psychology behind why so many MMO gamers are fucking obsessed with the paladin class no matter the game. And it really is this like sort of how you look in the mirror and see yourself, and a lot of people want to think of themselves as the fucking holy warrior, blah, blah, blah. But it's just like, I still don't get it. I'm like, there's so many cool classes out there. Why does everyone want to be the fucking paladin?
So I give paladins a lot of shit, and I just try to like poke fun. You know me, I like to give paladins shit. I'm known as a shaman guy, right? So of course I have to give them shit. But like, I just think they're extremely they were underdeveloped. It's the only class that I think really got a short end of the stick. I mean, you could throw Druid in there too, but I think the mindset is like in D&D and in like Diablo. I love paladin. So it's not that I don't like the idea of a paladin. It's just I don't like the WoW paladin, the classic WoW paladin. And I think it comes in like it's fun to imagine yourself as this like lawful good kind of like holy warrior kind of thing. There is some fun to it. I like the battle mage build more, like a plate wearing warrior that has magic capability, and I think paladin maybe scratched that itch for some people, and I think shaman scratched that itch for me, and that's why I played shaman so much. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's interesting because it's not a very. You think rogue would be like something would want to play, right?
Yeah,
Josh,
like everyone wants to be a rogue. Yeah.
I think it has to do a lot with that class fantasy, right? I mean, like, well, number one too is like, yeah, they didn't get fleshed out very well with Retribution and Prot, but Holy is an amazing spec, and Holy Paladins are needed so much for raids, and they have a huge integral place on the Alliance, right? So I think that's one thing. Number two, and this is true, a lot of weebs like to play Paladins, and there's a lot of weebs in this game.
They just needed one more ability. When you talk about like the boring play style and everything, like, and again, I can handle I've gotten used to the paladin gameplay style because you've learned to supplement your paladin leveling with Netflix or whatever on the side. So I'd rather enjoy the quiet, turn your brain off and not do anything with the paladin at times. But like if they just had Crusader Strike in vanilla, nobody would have said shit.
I think you're right. And the way you can realize that is if you look at the Shaman toolkit, Shamans and Paladins aren't that different when you take away shocks, right? If you take away the 6-second shock timer on Shaman and the totems, maybe you could argue that. They're very similar. But Shaman doesn't feel... Enhancement Shaman isn't my favorite Shaman. I like Elemental way more, at least in Classic. It flips in TBC. I like Enhancement more because they fixed Enhancement. They made it more interesting. But on paper, I think a lot of more people like Shaman, at least... I've seen what the numbers are currently. There's a lot of shaman right now in Horde. Is because you got that little bit of RNG with Wind Fury, and I know that there's that one seal that does a RNG type thing, but it's actually on a PPM, so it's a little bit different. But the shock cooldown, I think, makes it right. You have this 6-second ability you can use every 6 seconds that does damage.
Yeah, also interrupts too. Yeah,
and it depends on the shock you use, right? But still, you have
a 6-second interrupt, which is like really strong. Yeah.
Can I give you my? Sorry, keep going, Mel.
No, I'm just saying on paper, like Paladins are the safer class for sure. For hardcore,
they're kind of like a hero class too. I think that's the other thing too, is they have that lore behind them. With like a lot of people coming from Warcraft 3, a lot of people coming from Diablo. They have that idea of like, okay, Paladins are this really strong, like moral, just person. A lot of people like to RP as that. I think that I mean, I have an allure to Paladin. I do. Like I play usually with like Priest is my main. But if Paladins were better, I potentially would in Classic would have mained a Paladin. Just because I like the allure of them. But the other thing too is like going back to the Alliance thing. I think the Alliance has just the whole feel of like being in Stormwind, like as a Paladin. that kind of like with the music in the background, like and it kind of gives you the feel. I don't know. It's kind of like a pretty like cool feeling.
No, I'm with you. I feel the same as I would feel the same as like an Orc Warrior in Orgrimmar. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, I know what you mean. There's a connection there. Mel, I'll give you my hottest take. Yeah, you might not even say it's a hot take, but it'll be spicy enough for some people out there where I'm like, okay, I only quite recently tried Shaman in vanilla after loving it in Wrath. I went back to Shaman because Wrath was the first time I've ever played a Shaman, right? And I was like, okay, I wonder how this feels in vanilla. Tried it out, and I was like, oh my God, can I say the spiciest thing I'll say? Enhancement Shaman in vanilla is easily the most boring spec in the game.
So that and Ret are the most boring specs, I think. Yes,
I'd rather play a Ret Paladin though over an enhanced Shaman. Easy,
really,
yeah,
really
easy.
I would,
and that's coming from me, right? Saying that, and I as soon as so the way I usually level a Shaman in Classic is I melee up until 40, and then as soon as I can get the Elemental 40, Elemental Mastery, I just go Elemental because it's. First of all, you're doing like 3 times the damage. Yeah. Second of all, you're actually having fun now.
Yeah.
It's like, so much fun. Yeah.
It is boring. I will admit to you, it's not the greatest thing in the world. And a lot of people love enhancement, man. And the difference between TBC, Josh, like it got so much better in TBC, and I actually switched to enhancement in TBC because of it. Like,
yeah. I tried it late game TBC, and the how does it work again? The stacks work slightly differently. Don't you build stacks or something?
Oh no, you're thinking
is it flurry? I don't know. Anyway.
Oh yeah, well the flurry's in both. Flurry's in Classic too.
Hang on, the TBC enhanced Shaman uses something interesting.
They didn't really add anything. They just shortened they shortened the Storm Strike cooldown, and they allowed you to do wield. That was the big part.
Yeah,
right?
And you have your weapon sync and stuff like that you can
that's a whole other. Let's not.
Isn't
even
there something you pop when you get 5 stacks of something in TBC?
You're thinking of you're thinking of like Lava Lash or something. Maybe.
No, I'll keep looking. Anyway, I swear I'm not going crazy. I'll get back to you.
Josh,
on that one.
you have to power through. Try powering through and getting to 40 and get Elemental, because it is probably one of the most fun experiences I've ever had playing this game. Is it actually like doing Elemental in PvP was the most fun I've ever had playing this game. We did all Elemental BGs back in Classic, and there's nothing like Elemental. It's just so much fun.
Boys, the chatter that you and I were having the other day was a lot of it revolved around BlizzCon. And I figured a fun point of conversation for this chat now would be maybe reminiscing about BlizzCons of Ghost of BlizzCon's past.
Yeah.
BlizzCon is coming. It's fucking, by the time I produce this podcast, which is only a few days away from the time of recording this, BlizzCon is all of 6 weeks away. It's very, very close, and we were talking about what we think might be coming, and we'll get to what we think might be coming a little bit later on in this next BlizzCon. But I just wanted to talk about the last few years, and then also the one that we attended together and some of the fun parts of it. But if you haven't been to a BlizzCon, to all of you listening at home, my advice has very much stayed the same over the years, where I've been like, look, it depends how you feel about gaming conventions in general anyway. You know, there are 30 to 40,000 fucking people that descend on this thing. So, you know, if you're comfortable with a massive crowd, then, you know, go for it. But I've always said, you got to go once. Go once, see what it's like. It's great fun. I'm not personally sold on the multiple appearances, and I'm not personally sold on what actually happens in the fucking convention. I'm more about the drinks and the socializing afterwards. But how would you guys describe BlizzCon, or what advice would you give to people who are, you know, on the fence about going to their first BlizzCon, whether they should pull the trigger or not?
So I think the big thing for us was meeting people that we didn't know them yet, right? So yourself included, Josh. It was meeting everyone that we've talked to on Discord for many times, and we're gonna like be in the physical same place. And it is a kind of like a Disney-esque, I guess, kind of atmosphere where it is a little bit magical. I won't lie. Like, I think being in there with all those people that are into the same thing as you are is super cool. And we also had a really special BlizzCon because we got to sit down with Omar and talk to him and have dinner with him. And I mean, that's not going to be everyone's experience, obviously, but I think if you're in a guild, right, and if you're playing and your guildies are going to be there, or people you've never met that you really want to meet, that is worth it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's like being able to go somewhere where there's other people that are into the same thing you are. Like, I mean, just the overall like feeling of BlizzCon, and like when we went there, it was just like static electricity in there, right? You got all these people there, you know. You got, you know, I mean, chicks dressed up like, you know, like all
the cosplaying and everything. Yeah,
chicks, dudes too, right? But like, it's just like a really electric environment, and like Melderon said, going there with people that are into the same thing you are, and if you get to meet your friends there that you play in the game with, it's even better. But the thing is, like, you know, BlizzCon, it's not cheap, and getting there, you know, for a lot of people, it's not cheap either. Like, we had to fly there, we had to stay at a place, and you know, if you can afford it, I would say definitely do it. But if you're on a budget, and you know, maybe if you want to enjoy like the virtual ticket or just watch a streamer, you know, watch it or something like that. But I think the best thing for me was like, it's not about just going there for Blizzard, it's going there for the people that I play the game with. That's what I went there for, you know.
We haven't had any information on a virtual ticket or anything this year yet, have we?
Oh no, you're right. I haven't seen that.
I haven't seen a fucking thing. Yeah, it's just around the corner. Yeah, pull your thumb out, Blizzard. What the fuck are you doing?
What are you doing?
And the prices are so expensive this year too.
Oh yeah, they jacked it up.
Ridiculous, man. Yeah.
Mel, I found out what the fuck I was talking about. Sorry, tangent. Shamanistic focus. That's what I meant. How you wait for your Malay crit, and then you rip off your shock for 60% off your shock cost.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry. The reason I don't really think about it is because you have to use your shocks anyway every 6 seconds. In the DPS rotation.
If you're raiding, yeah. So I was talking more about level.
Sorry,
when I was leveling, I just had a weak aura set up for shamanistic focus to show me when it procced, and then I would hold my shock spells until I got the 60% off.
Yes,
and I really liked just that extra tiny little bit of engagement.
That is really cool. That is a cool thing. I didn't even think about that. Well, I forgot that already. Dude, the amount of knowledge... Dude, I was talking about this about Def Camp yesterday. Someone in his stream was thanking me for my videos or whatever. And I'm like, bro, I have to go back and watch my own videos.
That was me. That was me, you bastard.
No. So it was somebody else. So you were thanking... I thank you, Josh, for thanking me. But it was somebody had said something like, oh, you have so much information, how, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, bro, I have to watch them myself because I don't remember.
Yeah.
It's just like time goes by and like you're doing different things now in your life and you're like, what the hell did I say about this thing? You know what I mean? And I have to go listen and watch it again. Yeah,
and then you can genuinely say to people the line where you're like, I've forgotten more about World of Warcraft than you'll ever know.
That's funny.
That's true. Melderon's bad guy alone is like
lived long enough to see himself become the villain.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Dude, yeah. It's man, it feels like a different lifetime away, man.
Oh, it
sometimes.
does, doesn't it? It just does. But back to the BlizzCon thing, for sure. Like I'm hearing a lot of what you're saying. I mean, tell me if you guys think this is. Again, I don't want to like detract people from going. My advice very much so is if you've not been, you need to go once. But I'm a fucking weirdo, and my whole thing is like I never really enjoyed what was actually contained within the convention itself. So, oh, by the way, I'm streaming our DMs, Melderon. So just so you know, just in case you want to get it, even when you start sending love messages to me.
Oh, they see my horrible spelling. Oh no.
What was I going to say? So Def Camp, I'll throw this to you to start with while Melderon's away from the keyboard. I'm not that in love with what's actually contained in the convention itself. Do you think, like, tell me I'm a fuckwit and then it's all amazing and you love doing the game demos and all the shit. Like, how do you feel about the actual convention?
No, I agree. I think I mean the cool thing when we went is that Classic had just came out. So like we were really excited about Classic, and hearing anything about Classic was huge. We also did a panel, which was cool. But like for the most part, like all the other stuff that they were talking about was really, I mean, they announced Diablo 4 that year, which,
that's right.
Yeah.
you know, we thought Diablo 4 was going to be this amazing game, and we got to play a little bit of it. But like, yeah, for the most part, that was all in the background. That was like back noise compared to us meeting up and you know, getting to hang out. Everything else was kind of just, you know, noise, I guess, right? I mean, meeting Omar and meeting the devs was a huge highlight. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah,
I think Josh hit on something really good. I think it's something you have to do once at least, right?
Yeah,
I don't think it's something you have to do like multiple times. You have to just experience it. I think.
Grab
if you're
a
a huge,
guildie and go.
Yeah,
exactly.
100%. But I remember like we'll have to tell some of the stories now.
Oh yeah.
Let me kick us off with let me tell the earliest story in time, which I have told in the podcast years ago, but I'll refresh people's memories. It's a little bit of a negative one, but I'm not gonna set a negative tone. I'm not here to like bash anyone, but it's funny now looking back, I guess. But there was the time when my first BlizzCon, Blizzard gave me a free ticket and I flew over there. And then they proceeded to kick me out of the Classic press conference, which was...
Oh, I remember this. Yeah.
I was not allowed in, and they literally had someone waiting at the door specifically to boot me out if I tried to get in.
Wait, why? I didn't know about this. Why?
Yeah. So when they gave me my... Look, don't get me wrong. I should be very thankful for a free ticket to BlizzCon. Like we said, they're very expensive. I was very thankful, but I didn't read the fine print on them giving me the free pass, and they said, you know, you're not to attend any of the press they go, we're giving you a press pass, but you're not to attend any of the press conferences. And I was like, I didn't realize that. So I go to BlizzCon, and like the Classic press conference wasn't until like the second day or something. So on the first day, I had nothing to do, and I'm like, oh, I'm just going to go, I don't know anything about retail, but I'll go sit in on the retail press conference. And mate, I went in and fucking nobody was there. There was like 3 people there. One guy from like fucking Euro PC Gamer or something. And like Ian's fucking sitting there and he's like, okay, guys, throw your questions at me. And I'm not lying. There are 3 people in the fucking room, including me. And I'm like, this is so awkward because I'm just there as to hang out and watch. I'm not a fucking retail guy. And I'm like, this is so awkward. And nobody like fucking was going to ask a question. So I was like, oh my God, I have to like break the ice. I have to help this guy out. And so I fucking put my hand up and asked a question, like the first question of the retail press conference. And just to get Ian like talking and make him not feel like a fuckwit for sitting there, you know, for the press. And so, you know, he was really nice. He gave a really considerate answer to my probably incredibly average question. I don't even fucking remember what I asked. But about 10 minutes into the press conference, more and more people slowly filtered in late and eventually did start asking questions of their own. And I got to sit back and listen in. And I thought, oh, this is really fun. You know, I'm part of the press. You know, we're doing the thing. I'm with like, I know there's a guy from fucking, you know, whatever publication he's from covering that has to write an article about this later on and all that shit. So that was a bit of fun. And I had no drama. Like I had a press pass, so I flash it, and people just go, "Yes, right this way, sir. Go right in." You know, it was fine. And so the next day, I come back for the classic press conference, and I actually got a text message from the Aussie Blizzard PR guy, who's like, "Oh, hey mate, I'm really trying to get you into this press conference, but I don't think we can do it. But I'll keep you posted." And I was like, "What the fuck is he talking about?" And so I just went like, fuck this noise. And I just went up there. But he made me like think twice, like, oh, am I like not supposed to be here? What's going on? So I went up to another Blizzard employee and I was like in the press area and I'm like, hey, like I can go into the classic press thing, right? And they were like, they talked to me like I was a fucking idiot. And they go, do you have a press pass? And I was like, yeah, you're looking at it. And they're like, then you can go in. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah. So I walk in and this fucking guy I can't explain to you how much more full the classic press conference was. It was fucking packed, right? As compared to the retail one that I went to yesterday. And so I walk in and I see fucking Stay Safe and Tips in the front row center, all that shit, and S-Fan. And there's like 30 people seated for this one. And I walk in, and this guy, as soon as I walk in, I lock eyes with this guy immediately on my left, and he looks at me and he goes, Josh? And I go, yeah. And he goes, come with me. And we go outside, and he goes, sorry, mate, I can't have you in there. And I'm like, fucking what? And he's like, we can't do this. We can't have you in there. And I'm like, why? Like, why? I've just flown from Australia. Like, what's going on? He's like,
yeah.
Oh, mate, you know, like I said to you when I sent you the press pass, like we might not be able to get you in. Like, it's just one of those things. He goes, if he actually said this was his reason. He goes, if we let you ask questions, it's not fair to the others because this is a North American press conference.
Get the fuck out of here.
Biggest lying piece of shit excuse I've ever heard in my fucking life that would make every Blizzard staff member listening to this cringe 1,000 times over. That's 100% what he said. He goes, this is a regional thing and you're not part of this region. Fuck off, idiot. Like, I knew it was bullshit at the time, but I wasn't going to kick up a stink.
Yeah, if it was a regional thing, Josh, there would be BlizzCons in Australia, right?
Yeah,
there would be
exactly.
Like BlizzCons all over the world.
It was the worst excuse you could possibly come up with, but, you know, fuck it, whatever.
I don't know if I'm just misremembering something or if I'm just... We weren't in there, right? We were.
No, this is the year before.
Oh, it was the year before.
Yeah, this is 2018, right?
Okay.
So, I like this guy can tell I want to fucking. He knew I wanted to yell at him, but I didn't. So I bit my lip and said, "Fine, okay, no worries." And he's like, "Oh, I'll message you later tonight, mate. We'll have a beer at the pub." And I'm like, "Whatever." And fucking, I leave and I go back downstairs to the main hall where Patricia is, and a couple of other listeners. And I just go, they just booted me from the fucking classic press conference. And Patricia was about to walk up there and start fucking like taking names. She was so angry for me. She was spitting chips. And I was just like shocked. But like, it's funny with hindsight now, knowing everything I know and sort of, you know, working with Classic the way I've worked with it, you know, getting to know the dev team a little bit more. I do think it's become like I'm not blacklisted. That is very much so obvious. They do enjoy the show. They enjoy working with me. But I think for many years, the first few years of the show, there was very much so a like, just be wary of this guy. You know what I mean? Because because he asked the right questions and we don't like that.
Yeah. Yeah, you're not a bootlicker. So it's
but I also wasn't toxic. So that they actually don't know what to do with a proper journalist. And what they do is they don't deal with them.
Exactly. I see. So you don't think it was one of the bootlickers said something? That was my
No. None of that.
Okay.
I think it was absolutely, this guy is not a fanboy. He's actually a proper like journo, and we don't want anything to do with that.
I see. Wow. Yeah,
So
dude,
that's my story. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember you telling me this when we went there that year. I don't know how Melron doesn't remember anything anymore, but he's getting too old
I'm
now.
getting old, dude. I'm getting old.
Yeah. But
No.
yeah, I remember Josh, and like the like you said, I think a lot of the time they want people to ask, certain questions. They don't want people to ask, okay, what about this implementation? What about that? And they don't want to be, on their panel and getting stumped by, questions when someone
100%. And it's live broadcasts, you know what I mean? So they don't want a tough question coming up about like whatever I would have asked. And I wouldn't have done anything stupid, but like, you throw something out there like, oh, hey, whatever you wanted to say of like, hey, let's talk about the monetization of WoW Classic and how you'd be looking to recoup the money that you don't make because you can't sell mounts and box prices in this game. Like that's not a question they want to do live awkwardly, in front of people. So I don't begrudge them for it. I understand that Blizzard controls they're too big and they've got too much to lose to not be able to control the message, and I get it.
Right.
But I can look back and laugh now. But anyway, that's the funny little origin story of me and BlizzCon. Then we go to the next year where you guys and I met up and we had much more fun. So tell everyone, like basically we decided to get a house together, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was me, you, Patricia, Ale, Navik, right?
Yeah.
Is that it?
And you guys were
Someone else?
Navik was there and someone else. Yeah, 100%.
And Ale, yeah.
And there was one more, I swear. And
was there?
Yeah, there was one more person. I could have sworn. But you guys were paranoid that Patricia and I were gonna fucking be bonking each other's brains out through the night and making all the noise.
I was like, we wanted you guys to take the room. You're like, no, we're not taking the room because then you guys aren't going to think that we're bonking in there. I was like, okay, whatever, we'll take the room. That me and Melron slept in the same bed together.
Yeah.
No, you'd hear me climaxing from the next room and you'd be like, oh my God, those two. And it'd just be me playing Classic in the night.
The fuck's
Yeah.
there?
It'd just be me playing Classic, getting drops, going, oh!
Yeah. Meanwhile, it's him and Alan. No, I'm just
Oh, jeez, eh?
Oh, dear. So it worked out well.
So it was fun, man. And then we went to that. I think the funniest is we go to this party, right? It's like so I don't know how this works, but it seemed like everyone who got a press pass got invited to this like dinner/drinking event at like a bar/restaurant. So Al ties one on, right? I don't know how drunk he was, but he ties one on. I had a few drinks, and it was just such a weird, because it's like everyone in there is very what's that job people have? Influencer. There's a lot of like influencers type people, right? And Al and I aren't like that. And I think Josh, you didn't come, right?
No, I wasn't here for this story. No,
right.
I think I was sick. This is when I was sick.
Yeah, this is when you weren't feeling good. Yeah,
I sadly skipped the influencer party.
Yeah. So we're in the pisser, and we're sitting there pissing, and so S-Fan walks in, right? So S-Fan's like peeing. We're all peeing. We're all kind of just like standing in the urinals, and Al goes, "Oh, hey, S-Fan. My name's Ale. I killed you a bunch of times in the beta." And and S-Fan looks at Al and is like, okay, dude, nice to meet you too.
Hopefully still while pissing all this happened.
While we're pissing, right? And I'm like, and it just was it was so funny. I just laughed out loud, right? And I'm just laughing. And then we leave and we go into this upstairs room, which is more like a loungy type area. And I see Mr. GM, who's a YouTuber, across like the bar or whatever. So I go over and say hi and introduce myself. And Al goes, dude, I don't know how he thought this. He goes, "Oh, hey, Mad Season, nice to meet you," and puts out his arm, right, to shake. And I'm like, and I didn't realize this at the moment, right? And like Mr. GM had this like super sour look on his face, like, dude, how the fuck do you don't know who I am, kind of thing. And I didn't realize this until later. No one knows what Mad Season looks like.
Yeah.
Right? Why the fuck did Ale think
That's what sells the joke.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
It was so funny. Al was just going around just saying the craziest shit to people.
Oh, I remember he grabbed me to introduce me to Ian. And I think it was a slightly awkward conversation, but I did get to say hello to Ian thanks to a slightly inebriated Ale. Yes, he was very friendly.
Great.
Yeah, we had some awkward moments with some people there. That like it was I mean, you're there with a lot of people that they're gamers, right? They don't know how to have like normal conversations, so it's like very awkward with some people. And yeah, it was just like, oh, hey, how you doing? And you just kind of stand there for like 3 seconds. Okay, I'll see you later, man.
Yeah, there is a lot of that, unfortunately. Yeah. But like, I mean, look, I'm not we're not throwing shade at people who might be a little bit like fucking socially quiet or socially awkward or whatnot. Like, but that's what these conventions are great for, is it brings people together who ordinarily might not have the avenues in their regular lives to be able to talk to people about their, unique hobbies, being World of Warcraft or whatnot. And this throws you in the fucking mosh pit with 30 to 40,000 other people that you can kind of, say hello and talk to about, the things that you do that other people in your life might not understand. And that is the Disney World part of it. That's amazing. Like, granted, you meet some of them and they might not have a lot to say, but I'm sure they're still having fun.
Oh yeah. And that's the cool thing too, is like, I mean, I'm not the most socially, I can be socially awkward at times too. So it's like, it's nice. Everyone there is kind of in the same boat, right? And like, no matter if you're an influencer or just someone like, going there as a fan, you get to meet everyone. And like, just being like, I think the best part for us was definitely meeting Omar and sitting down and having a talk with him and just listening to like, hey, this is how I implemented this and this is how I'm going to do that. And like that for me was, it was like meeting a rock star, you know what I mean? For me, like, I met, like for instance, like if you're meeting like Ozzy Osbourne or something like that, right? And that's what it felt like. It was just such a cool moment.
It was
definitely like, those, I've talked about it before on the show, but we'll say it again. Like, the nicest thing about the interaction with Omar, and like, we know sort of, how heavily involved Omar was obviously with the development of Classic. I really thought to a certain extent, even though Omar and I, and all of us, we all got along really well, Omar sat down with us for like, fucking 5 or 6 hours that Friday night and drunk with us until, fucking midnight, and we all went home and said goodbye. I remember the next day going like, oh, that was very polite of him. Like, he didn't have to do that. That was very nice of him. And it was stupid of me to not have it dawn on me. Like, if he wasn't having a good time, he would have fucking left. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And so, like, I remember all of us were like talking in the kitchen the next morning, and I was like, fuck, how cool was that hanging out with Omar? What a great guy. Like, he had so many interesting things to say. And I think I said, or someone said, like, oh, I wonder if he'd do it again tonight. And I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just going to message him. Like, it felt like, the awkward, like, what do you the 3-day grace period. If you I really like someone, don't text them straight away, you're giving it all away. And I was like, fuck it, I like him, I'm gonna say something. So I texted him straight away. It was just like, hey mate, we had a great time last night, if you're up for same bat time, same bat channel again tonight at the bar, let us know. And straight away, he was like, fucking absolutely. And we were like, yay, he doesn't play games.
It's like he's a normal person. Oh, my God.
Yeah, and we fucking did it all again the next night for hours.
Yeah, that was so cool, man.
I think he was, I think he kind of, I don't even think of the word to use for this. I think he kind of reveled in a little bit that he
enjoyed it for sure. Yeah. Like, I
people
think he enjoyed,
we're geeking out over him a little bit. I how can a human not have that feeling? I feel like, right? And
I think he appreciated us. That's the word.
He did, and he respected us. It wasn't like he was feeling. We didn't feel used or anything like that.
Well,
right?
I didn't talk to him about the game very much. I don't know. I don't know about you guys, but like, he was just a fucking nice guy. He was a good chat.
Yeah,
he really was. Yeah,
he was a really, really nice guy. And
they yeah, I mean, like when Blizzard lost Omar, they lost a big piece of their classic team for sure.
Yeah, my other funny one that I always bring up is bumping into a fucking shit faced with a capital S, Alex Afrasiabi, who infamously left the company not long after that interaction. Shit faced at the urinal, bumped into him, and he gave me the old like head nod and what's up. And I'm just like, fuck. Like he
kind of makes sense now, right?
He seemed like a sleaze bag even then.
Yeah.
And I just off a 10-second interaction. But anyway.
It's crazy when you get to see the inside workings of like the company like that. You get to see like the people behind it, and you're like, oh, they're just. Yeah, you get to see like, okay, they're normal people just like me and you, right? But then you also see like some of them are kind of douchebags, and some of them are really cool, and some of them are, just average or whatever. It's just like they're just like everyone else. But we kind of saw like, for instance, you seeing Alex, like, okay, kind of understand now like what people were saying about him kind of makes sense, What
are some of the other things that you guys remember?
Oh, well, the extremely somehow we spent how much on eggs and bacon and toast? Remember that?
And orange juice,
We made like breakfast for everyone. I don't know what it came. We went to this supermarket, and now I live in California, which is funny, and I can't remember what supermarket we went to. And we got eggs, bacon, and orange juice, and it somehow came to like what, like over $100.
60. Oh yeah, it was more
than $3,900. They saw
the I was like, what kind of fucking eggs are these, dude? So it was funny, man, but that was a funny moment.
And then clogging the toilet.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Oh,
that was
God.
A good one. I wasn't going to bring it up. I'm glad you did.
Yeah, when the toilet sadly died a horrible death.
I searched for a plunger for like a day.
I've seen chat for the toilet, please.
The toilet and the poor cleaning lady.
Yeah.
Oh no! So bad, but it was a great trip. You need things like that to happen on a trip. You know what I mean? It's flavor. Oh fuck! But anyway, those are the ghosts of BlizzCon's past. So yeah, please do get out there with your friends if you can. It is worth it for a laugh. Go and have a fucking drink. Go and say hi to the devs. They're good value.
There's a bar. It's the bar in the hill in the
So the Marriott. The trap is the Hilton. Do not drink at the fucking Hilton. The cool kids go to the Marriott.
Hell yeah.
That's what it is. Okay. Yeah. But I'm looking forward to. I'm gonna go down there this year. I didn't buy tickets or anything, but I'll probably meet up with whoever's down there this year. Hopefully.
Yeah, I would love to go again at some point. I was thinking about going this year, but it just not working out with time and everything like that. But I think I might go again. I'm gonna feel really kind of salty if they announce Classic Plus this year.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. It's a shame because I think this is the year to go, man.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
What do you think's coming? What do you actually think they're gonna do?
I think they're definitely going to announce a new WoW expansion, right? Obviously.
Yeah, that's a given.
They're going to announce Classic Cata probably.
Yeah, given.
They're definitely going to announce a new season, and whether it's Classic Plus or just another season somehow differently, I don't know. But I'm really hoping for Classic Plus, and I'm really hoping that they take into consideration a lot of the things that people have been asking for. I really think I'm all about itemization rather than changing talent trees. Itemizations, maybe offering even like a glyph system to offer something that could potentially help classes like druids that have a lot of issues with gear and whatnot. Like just more itemization, more content, more class race combination, more raids. Lower level raids, more lower level dungeons, more outdoor content, things like that.
I hope.
You go, Mel.
I'm just saying. I hope it is seasonal. Because I hope it's not something that they just change and I don't know. Because I honestly, like, the only thing that I don't know, man. I just want to fresh.
Yeah.
Like I just want a PvP again. Like if I'm gonna play, I mean, the fact that I don't know. I know people want Classic Plus. I know they do. I just am scared to think about what they're gonna do and with the ramifications. There's no way they thought out the long-term ramifications of the things they're planning. There's no way, because they never do. even in retail. Yeah.
I think I'd lock it in, and I've been saying this for months now. Lock it in. I think we're getting Classic Plus.
Yeah.
I also need my prediction to be correct because like the sheer amount, and don't get me wrong, you guys might be, saying this as well, and I don't mean to shit on you if this is your opinion, but the amount of comments you still see out there everywhere on the subreddit of people going, you're a fucking idiot if you think they're ever going to do Classic Plus. They are not going to spend a fucking red cent on any form of development for Classic, blah, blah, blah. Never is the word always used. They're never, ever, ever doing Classic Plus. I need it to be a thing so I can just do the like, oh, you motherfuckers who said this was never going to be a thing, line up for your fucking humble pie. I don't know. Like,
dude, they said the same thing about Classic.
100%.
Remember, they're never going to do Classic. They're never going to come out with it.
100%.
I mean, how many people said that, dude? Thousands.
Yeah.
Like,
no, I think they're definitely going to do it, Josh. I'm just hoping they keep it seasonal. Like it's not
like a 12-month server. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I just don't know. I don't know if it's safe to make hard like changes to something like Classic and then set it that way.
I don't think I have a funny feeling they won't go seasonal again. I have a funny. Well, it's tough. It's tough because like. People's attention spans are getting shorter. I agree with you, Mel. And like, I think it's very obvious that the private server fresh kind of mentality has very much so sunk into the Classic crowd of like, we always just want a new server. We want a new server. We want a new server. And then when we play that new server, 6 months later, we want another server to a certain extent. You know what I mean? But like,
yeah.
I think there is still a lot of love there for the 2-year cycle for a good Classic server. And most people are like, I'm happy to stick around on a server that actually captures me. The other thing is, I think the real thing to take away from this iteration of the Classic team is they know that Classic is what sells. You know what I mean? They know that fucking where their bread is buttered, and they now don't probably want to change too much. Extra content is cool and all. I don't really, as bizarre as this is to say, I don't count extra content as a change per se, as much as like you could do extra content with all the same talents and everything, and you're not really like changing the game that much. You'd have new items and stuff. I get that. But like on the base functionality level, the game could stay the same with new content. But I think they know not to fuck with the game too much, and any minor changes they make would be exactly that, minor, to classes and whatnot. I don't think we're going to look at a big overhaul. I think all we would get is just some fun new sideways progression, maybe sideways, maybe slightly upwards, I don't know, raid tiers with some new items, and that's about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's the smartest way to do it. Maybe add new tier sets for each, instead of for just class tier sets, add tier sets for, specs too, right? Just more items. I think itemization is the way to go, in my opinion. Yeah.
Yeah, I just hope they're careful. That's all. I just hope they're careful to not disrupt the Classic ecosystem. That's all.
Well, just remember, Mel, I want to get your take on this. They overhauled that Classic PvP system for a fucking reason.
Oh yeah.
True.
And that was needed. And that was needed, I think.
But was it needed? Not unless you're not making something new.
Have you done? No, I don't. I'm not trying to be. Have you done the grind, Josh?
No, I haven't, and I know what you mean. The grind is horrible, but I'm saying, we've already done a fucking a Classic server. We've already done a song server.
I see your question.
Like people have done it. The people who are into it are gonna do it. We don't need to change
enough
it.
People playing on White Mage to warrant it, though.
No, I think Josh is right. I think they did that for Classic Plus. I think he's right.
Really. I think there are enough people on White Mage to warrant that change. In my opinion,
they use Classic Elder to test it. I think.
I don't reckon that. I disagree with you. I hear what you're saying, Dev, but I disagree with you that they would have gone to the. And trust me, I'm sure it was a fucking headache for the devs. Gone to the trouble they went to retool that PvP system just for the people who were dicking around on era PvP at the time.
Yeah.
Now that I think about it, I think you might be right, because I mean there are a lot of people playing it, but it doesn't warrant the factor. Like, okay, why change it?
Dude,
You know, it's been
man,
the same way for so long. Yeah,
People playing on
that's
error
a really
didn't
good
give a
point,
shit.
Josh. Yeah,
People playing on error didn't care, man.
yeah.
Right? They didn't even ask for it. They were just kind of dropped.
Nobody asked for it.
That's a really good point. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's definitely for Classic Plus.
And if they never changed it, nobody would said shit.
All right.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty good indication that it's probably coming. Yeah.
They want a more streamlined, slightly user-friendly ranking system in place for the next big thing.
Yeah, when you sorry,
Right.
yeah. So I didn't realize what you were asking, Josh, but I 100% agree with you. That was for Classic Plus. Yeah.
But on that, guys, like we always joke about, everyone's got a different definition of Classic Plus. You know, the three of us go way back with Classic at this point, and the extent to which we fucking covered the game. What do you guys? I haven't really asked you. What do you want to see in a Classic Plus? Like, everyone's got a different definition, but what's your definition of what you want to see in a Classic Plus?
Honestly, I'm not really a fan of it. Not that. Okay, let me rephrase. What I mean by not a fan is I'm completely ambivalent about it.
Okay.
And if they would release just a fresh the way it is right now tomorrow, that would be amazing. And I think a lot of people, that would be enough for them to get them to just, start playing again. If they did do Classic Plus, I'd be also excited-ish, but I'd be very wary of it, and I'd be like, well, what has changed? Blah blah blah. But I think I think the most important thing is, if you're going to do Classic Plus, don't make it TBC.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. Don't make it Wrath Talent. Don't take Wrath Talents and just
yeah.
Don't take TBC shit and then just say, oh, we're going to just be cheap and give the talent, some stuff from TBC in the Classic. That's super low effort, right? I think they're going to have to imagine new things like Shaman tanks. Like, that's something that never existed.
Yeah.
I agree. I've soured on that point. I originally was like, transplant TBC or Wrath Talents into vanilla. I was big on that. And I've really soured on that over the last 6 months, going, actually lean into vanilla talents maybe is the answer.
100%. So I thought a lot about this. I've talked on stream a lot about it. And I think, number one, the main thing I'd like to see is a lot more content during the leveling process. So more quests, more streamlined quests, better items during quests. I would like to see more dungeons and maybe even low-level raids, like 10 mans, to get people kind of like ready to raid once they hit level 60. I think more outdoor content would be great as well, like more like Jinthal lore type stuff, more outdoor raids. I think 100% we need to see changes to if they're going to make Paladins a viable tank, they have to make Shamans a viable tank. I don't think I would not like to see Paladins on a Horde. I think I would like to keep it
100% with
Shaman Horde and Paladin
agree.
Alliance.
I agree.
It's what makes the game fun to have that difference
the vanilla flavor.
I think the biggest change that they need to do is to itemization. I think they need to offer more. The whole reason why Druids need pummelers is because they don't do enough threat on the Horde to keep up with
Horde and Alliance.
And Alliance too.
Yeah.
Druids don't have many options of gear going in pre-raid BIS. They really don't have that good of options of gear until like AQ 40. Like, give them more options. Make tier sets spec specific instead of just class specific, right? To fix certain items, you can even enter some kind of like a glyph system, but not really a glyph system. This is going a little bit kind of more far. I don't think they would have to do this, but if people were saying like, if you want to give Shamans a tanking ability, right? So that they can tank, either give them a new ability or give them some kind of glyph to where they, have a certain totem that makes them kind of like a bear tank, right? More so like a bear tank than like a paladin tank.
I really agree with Def Camp. I think that you should only give each class maybe one new talent or one new ability, right? Everything should come from the gearing, or it should come from something like a glyph system, like Def Camp said. It shouldn't. I don't think they should fuck with the talent tree too much, because because not Omar, Kevin Jordan and the guys who worked on the talent tree, they put a lot of love into that, and even though it's not perfect, it works. This beautiful, like, imperfect system is so intricate and so cool, and I think that if you put a lot of dev time towards revamping those talent trees, it could be disastrous. I think that because no one implicates. The thing is, classic. The PvE is so tied to PvP, and
Exactly.
and it's you got to be really careful what you do, because if you give even like giving Crusader Strike to Paladins, which would I think everyone agrees is probably a really good thing. We don't know what the implications are for PvP.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and not only that, but like when people talk about balancing, people always look at PvE balancing. Like, you got to look at the classes as a whole in Classic, as in the three aspects of the game that are biggest. Leveling, PvE, endgame, and PvP. Leveling is a huge part of the game. Classes that aren't great at PvE endgame, like maybe like hunters, are the best levelers, right?
Yeah.
So like, you got to take those things in consideration. You don't want to just balance everything around one aspect of the game.
I agree.
I think that's a good
my thing has been like, if they do make any minor class changes to kind of help out classes that do really poorly in raids, I'm all for that. But my thing would be like almost take the Wrath approach, like what you've done with Wrath Classic via the glyph system or whatnot. No, I'm not saying do glyphs in vanilla, but I'm saying what they basically did was, here's an ability that you can use in PvE to help you out because you need the help, but you can't use it in PvP. I'm all for that. Like, even if it was something as stupid or dumb as like, hey, Paladins, you get Crusader Strike, but it's literally not usable in PvP content. You know, something like that.
Or like Druids being able to sacrifice their pet in raids or something like that, right?
But like,
I'm sorry, not Druids, hunters.
Yeah.
Sacrifice their pets in raids, just like a Warlock can sacrifice their pets, and they do 15 to 20% extra damage, right? Something like that.
So like, I'm with you. Like, PvP, the number one thing has to be basically don't touch it. Like, it is fine as it is.
I think
Paladins are super strong, and like Paladins are super strong in PvP.
Super strong. They don't need an extra attack. They would dominate.
Exactly.
Yeah. So something really important to keep in mind, and I think this is something that what led WoW down, in my opinion, is they made every class the ability to fulfill almost any role. I know rogues and retail can't heal. I understand that, and I'm not trying to say they can, but the D&D nature, like, Classic WoW is the closest to a tabletop game. With every expansion, it moved away from that mentality, right? And I think that it's very important that the flavor of each class is preserved, because if you start to mess with that and you start to make everybody be the same amount of DPS, when you play D&D, when you roll a cleric, you're not going to out DPS a fighter. You just know that from the start, right? I think it's a very dangerous step to be like, oh, we're going to make Shadow Priest do as much DPS as warriors. I think that's a dangerous step.
And that's what I'm saying. I think this Classic team gets that, and that's what I mean when I say they know where their bread is buttered. They know the best thing for Classic is just go out there and be Classic.
Yeah. I just hope that, like, there's a lot of people I know who want a lot of changes in Classic Plus that I've spoken to. And, if you want that many changes in Classic Plus, then it's not going to be the game. Like, it's the whole reason why Classic Plus is wanted is because people love Classic so much. They love the world of Classic. They love the aspect of the game that, sometimes there's things that are a little wonky, and like, not every class is optimal, and not every class is optimal at a certain thing. And I think you want to keep the essence of that while making the game different enough to be something new, right? Because we've been playing this game now for almost 20 years, and it's time to maybe experience some more content, right, in the Classic world. And I think that's the main thing that people want. They just want to experience more content in the Classic world, fix a couple things that we can while we're there, with like itemization in some of the classes, and not go too far with it. I think that's the, like you said, that's the bread and butter. That's what people want.
Yeah, and
that's what we should get.
Exactly. And let's not forget the minor things. So there's minor things that I think could be super nice to add into the game. One of them being rogues can be able to click off their own poisons. Like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
stupid shit like that still exists. That is okay. You could say it's charming, but it's also annoying when you're a rogue. You just put on your poisons, and a shaman just joined your group, and you can't get Wind Fury now for 30 minutes.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I would think Classic Plus is the time to drop all of your really, really how do I term this? If you're how can I say this nicely? If you're truly highly strung over the inane quality of life obstructions that Classic brings, and you call it, that's Classic, baby, that's what makes it so good. Classic Plus is the time to drop that bullshit with like, hey, maybe we bring in instant mail, and hey, maybe we bring in like shorter flight paths. If there's people out there going,
Summoning stones.
no, that's where like it's fucking Classic, just shut up. Now, you had your fun in 2019. There are very small quality of life things that we can all agree would make the game a little more palatable.
Yeah,
Please bring summoning stones in, man. Oh,
I agree. I said I was ambivalent originally, and I do want to see a new. I do want to see a new thing. I need to be convinced that it's going to be right. It's going to be done right. And I just want to say, like the 2019 thing you said, Josh. I was talking to a coworker of mine, and I was trying to. He doesn't play. He's played WoW way back in the past and hasn't played for many, many years. And I tried to explain to him how amazing it was in 2019. The game comes out, and despite how horrible it was that we had a worldwide pandemic happen, like every person listening to this podcast who played the Shadow Classic can agree with me. Despite what happened, what better time to have a worldwide pandemic happen? Like, it was crazy how this game comes out, and we wanted to relive our childhoods, and for a lot of us, we got to because we were sitting at home all day. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah,
almost too much of
you're right. Due to obviously horrible circumstances that we would not fucking wish on the world again in any way, shape, or form.
No, not at all.
But besides the point is that it happened, and people were sitting on their asses at home if they weren't sick, and what they had to decide what to do with their time, and it was incredibly fortuitous for people to be able to fill in their spare time when they weren't suffering with the bullshit of COVID, and also for Blizzard's bottom line.
Yeah, that too. But I was like, kind of like
a coincidence, you know.
It was like kind of a dark. It's a very dark coincidence, right? But it's like I remember sitting there and I'm playing. I'm like getting world buffs in the middle of the day, and I'm like, at any other time in human existence, I would not be able to do this.
Yeah,
I would not be able to get world buffs in the middle of the day. This wouldn't happen, right?
Well, it's an interesting fork in the road where you go, I wonder if we'd be sitting here talking about hardcore WoW and Classic Plus and whatnot if COVID never happened.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't know, Josh. It's a very weird thing. I hate bringing that up because I know some people suffered immensely.
Yeah, and people lost loved ones and everything.
Yeah.
We're not obviously fucking making light of COVID.
Yeah.
It's just that's how it happened, you know. It just happened to be during the time of COVID and when Classic WoW came out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Classic Plus, if it comes out, it's going to be huge. I think it's going to be probably their biggest spread in the breadwinner for Blizzard. I think if they do it right, it's going to be more popular than retail and Classic combined potentially.
So yeah, just to come back to something you said earlier, Mel, just like it intrigues me, and man, I'm not fucking grilling you for this. You're entitled to your opinion and what you're into, but it's interesting to me that I know you're not mostly done with WoW. You're back playing hardcore and everything and having a good time, but so the concept of like a new Classic server with just like, and hey, guess what? We got a couple of places for you to go after Nax when you got your Nax gear doesn't entice you at all.
Here's why it doesn't entice me. It does entice a part of my brain, Josh. The reason why it doesn't entice me as much as it did a while ago is because I know I can't do that again.
Right.
I'm in a point in my life where I can't no life the game again.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that other people shouldn't be happy about it. The reason I'm ambivalent is not because I think I'm not being jealous. I don't have the stake I did years ago. I don't make content anymore. I play extremely casually when Dev Camp's streaming. I hang out with them sometimes. So for me, it's like I want to see the game do well because it means a lot to me that it does.
Hmm.
But I guess the ambivalent part is that I know that I'll never be able to no life a game like this again, and because we no life the shit out of it, dude, in 2019, we did,
Yeah.
and I can't get into a guild anymore. I can't do raids. I can't be a part of raid schedule. So hardcore for me is probably the only WoW I'll ever play again, and it's kind of like one of the and I'm one of those guys who once I reach 60, Josh, I'm pretty much done. I might do some dungeons, but I don't raid. So I hope that it's the best possible game for everyone listening, and I hope you guys have a great time. I won't be able to do, I might be able to mess around with it, but I won't be able to do those raids you just brought up.
No, that's a fair point, and fucking
Yeah.
mate, please, I'd love to hear your comment on what I'll say now, and Def Camp, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this too. But like, fucking, I'll use your first name because I feel like we need to for this segment of the podcast, mate. But Phil, like you and I definitely, we do skew towards the older end of the player base. But it's not just us. The whole player base is aging. At the end of the day, we're a few months away from Classic having come out 5 years ago. And, everyone's getting a little bit older and time is beginning to catch up with a lot of people. All those people who were like, 25 when Classic came out in 2019 are about to turn 30, have their first child, and have far less time on their hands. This is something that I think the Classic team is rather cognizant of. And I know I've had a discussion with the dev in the recent past about this issue, and they actually said to me, we talked about it rather in depth about 6 months ago on the podcast, and they messaged me and said it really resonated with them when we talked about the Classic player base aging and their time being available to the game going down. And they didn't say anything further than that, but the message I took away from it was it's something that they're keeping in the back of their minds. How do you feel that aging player base, Phil, is going to, what could you do with that? Could you see that affecting development at all?
So I'm actually surprised that they're actually thinking about this. It's good that they are. I think that I think Classic WoW is a perfect game for people that are a little bit older because outside of the whole world buff thing, which is extremely time consuming, it's a pretty casual game. You can sit. Taladril actually talked to me about this. Taladril was playing Wrath, and he's like, "Bro, I miss Classic not because the Lich King raids have more mechanics and it's fun, but you can't sit there, have a beer, and chill with people and just kill some bosses in 30 seconds. And that's a big reason why Classic was so popular. I think is that. And, Asmongold makes fun of it all the time. Oh, Classic players, blah, 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 whatever. Yeah, I know it's an easy game. We all do. That's why we love it at some level.
Yeah.
You can make it harder by doing speedruns and stuff like that or by doing hardcore. But I think they have to be very mindful of what they add isn't too hard. And you're able to get it done in a night kind of thing. Some people only have one night to play per week,
Yeah. It shouldn't be like Mythic raid style like content. Like, I mean, like the thing about Classic WoW though, it's so good. It's like, even though it is accessible to a lot of people, like, I mean, look at hardcore, right? You're gonna only see like 1% of the player base doing Nax and whatnot, right? But like it's nice to be able to like chill with the boys on a Friday night, do a raid, do like a ZG, nothing that's like too crazy, and like and still have a lot of fun. And I think there's a part of Classic that is a lot of fun like that. It would be, nice to have some challenging content out there, but like you said, it's not going to be like, like Mythic raiding in retail or whatnot.
I think they shouldn't go past the next difficulty, in my opinion.
Right.
I think that would be bad for Classic.
I completely agree with a lot of what you guys have said, and I'll just add on my point on the time that people have and the conversation I have with the developer. We've probably already seen the kinds of things that they might have had in mind in being cognizant of the lack of time on people's hands. The PvP system change is a huge one, where they're now not punishing people for not having all the time in the world. That might have been something that was being alluded to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So And obviously we've had like the 1.5 experience boost or whatever in Season of Mastery or whatever the fuck it was, and we get Joyous Journeys and shit like that. So we have seen examples of people's time sort of being respected a little bit more. But anyway, on what you're saying with the rating and the difficulty and whatnot, Melderon, I love this point because I think hardcore is also bringing people around as well, where like, you guys, you remember the amount of hate that Classic got from retail players when it first came in. And don't get me wrong, fucking, asshole Classic players say horrible things about retail as well. It goes both ways.
It does.
But
yeah,
like
I'm one of them.
yeah, I know. But like we've all thrown the slings and arrows both ways. But like, I feel like I've seen the tide turn towards Classic over the last 2 years, where more and more retail players have given Classic a bit of the benefit of the doubt, or even come to maybe give it a try and enjoy Classic where otherwise they had no interest, because they are seeing all these people chilling out and having fun and having a drink with the crew. And the best analogy I could give, tell me if I think this is a fucking good one, you guys tell me if you agree or disagree. It's like, I think of it like a game of golf, where imagine if you get three buddies together and you go, all right, hey, fucking Phil, Matt, let's grab ale, we'll go play 2-on-2 on the golf course, see who wins, blah blah blah, and we go and do that. And imagine the difference between these two experiences, where like in one game, we're chilling out, we're grabbing the golf cart, the drinks person for some beers on the 8th hole, and we're fucking hitting it in the sand trap and then having a laugh about, oh, mate, you spend more time at the fucking beach than David Hasselhoff and blah. Like just having a great slow game of golf, having fun, right? Versus the experience if we played the same game of golf with another group behind us, rushing us along, fucking giving each other shit and yelling at each other when your teammate hits a bad shot. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Fucking get it on the green next time, mate. Which is like the Mythic Plus fucking experience kind of thing to a certain extent. Like, it's just go, 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 meta, no fun to be had. We're in this to win it. Fucking that's it. And I think more retail players are seeing us on the slow golf game going, oh, that looks like fun.
Exactly. Like, who wants to
start
a game? It's a great analogy. Who wants to start a game where, I try to, once in a while I keep in touch with what's going on in retail, and the complaints are it's too much of a barrier to entry for end game content. It's, and it's extremely attractive when you're in your 30s and you're like, oh, there's this other game that has this like really good community aspect, and I can go join a guild with other people who are my age and just relax and kill bosses and get loot. Because at the end of the day, you just want to kill bosses and get loot, right? You don't care really about the mechanics. A lot of people don't care about the mechanics, how hard the raid is. There are people who do, and that's why Mythic exists. But when you consider the player base of retail who does Mythic, what is it, like 5%? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
can I just interrupt? Sorry, Melderon. I want to say one thing on that. I'm so sorry. I saw a tweet the other day from a big WoW player who said something along the same lines, where they were like, can we all come out and admit that people just like classic raids because they want the easy loot? They just want automatic loot, blah, blah, blah. And you've sort of said that there. And I know there's more to it than what you're saying, but I'll just add, I don't think that's it. I think people love classic raids because of the hang. And yes, people like easier difficulty, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You're not a lesser gamer because you want an easy difficulty, but it's not so much about the difficulty. And like, yeah, people want to progress their characters and get more powerful and get perps and all that shit, but I think it's more that people want to relax in a raid, knock the boss over without having to use a lot of brain power, and just get out and say they've done it, and if they got a piece of gear, awesome.
Yeah, and they made a friendship. And they made friendship during that process. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. That's why I raid. Yeah, I mean,
because Def Camp and I still talk about the conversations we had in guild chat, like during raid, some things we've said to each other. We never talk about killing the bosses usually, Def. We always talk about, remember when Thunder said this, or when so and so said this.
And if it is killing the boss, it's like when something crazy happened, like when I killed Thaddeus with my staff.
Yeah, stuff like that.
You know what you don't remember? Who was fucking number one on the DPS meter that night?
No,
you don't. You're right.
Yeah.
You don't. Exactly.
Except that it was always me. So
You said DPS meter or
don't even
HPS meter?
I know. I'm kidding. I'm just joking.
But yeah, I mean, it was always the warrior, so we just pick a warrior at random.
Yeah,
Probably be
right.
But
Yeah.
you know, it's yeah, classic is the perfect game. I unjokingly said this to Kevin Jordan. He was streaming again a few nights ago, and I went into his chat, and some people may say I'm a brown noser for saying this, but I genuinely mean what I said. I was like, Kevin, dude, like, hardcore came out again, and it's just like a whole new aspect of the game. And I was just like, thanks again for making the best game ever made, dude. Like, it just is, man. Like, I know it's a very opinionated top thing to say, but I haven't played a game that's better than this.
Yeah,
and the amount of hours we put into this game, it's ridiculous.
Yeah,
it's absolutely ridiculous.
A lot of people say they enjoy the fact that I interviewed Kevin knowing nothing, right? And the whole Babe in the Woods shtick worked for a lot of the listeners, and that's why Countdown sort of got to the stage that it did. But I look back on all those chats I had with Kevin, and I personally have regret where I'm like, if only I knew what I know now about the game, I would have so much more reverence for Kevin because when I had got those Kevin interviews, I'll readily admit I didn't give a fuck. I'm like, oh, great, former dev. What did you do? Okay, you designed the classes, whatever. Get in here and talk to me. But now I'm like, holy fuck. This guy designed the classes for the greatest fucking video game of all time in one of the most, I know, again, we give the vanilla classes shit, but we all realize as well, there is so much beauty to the mayhem there.
Yeah, there is.
Absolutely. That's why it's really hard, like Melron said, to make a Classic Plus, because there's so many things that make this game imperfect is what makes it great.
Yeah. It was almost like they stumbled upon this game. So, they say, is mathematics, was it discovered or was it invented? And I believe that, it was discovered. Mathematics were discovered. And I think it's the same similarity where, they just stumbled upon this, thing that worked, and they had this people working from all different walks of life. John Statz was in business, and he was in his basement after work designing Quake levels, and they hired him to do the dungeons, just people who weren't all gamers. I mean, they're all nerds of different types of nerds, but it's just it just kind of worked. It was an imperfect storm that just kind of made this game. And it's like with you, Josh. I was thinking about your talent selection in Warrior. Totally off meta, but only this, this is a classic thing where you can do stuff like that. Yeah,
and it still works.
Yeah.
Mate, on that note, we'll go down the tangent and talk about people doing things in their off time. Please, Melderon, do tell, what have you, obviously you famously kind of walked away from the game for a while, and then you moved to California, and you're doing your own thing now, but you're back playing a bit of hardcore with Matt. But, mate, you're doing something else in your fucking spare time now, aren't you?
Yeah, so I guess the gene that I have for doing content, I guess it didn't, it's still expressing itself pretty high. So I work with this guy, Nick, who is, he's such an interesting guy. He actually is not a scientist. And this is going to sound, I don't mean this to sound elitist at all. He only has an undergrad in philosophy, but he's a coding master, and he got this job basically because of that. And he's got just a unique way of looking at the world, and we would just riff and bullshit during lunch, and I'm like, dude, you know what? We should make a podcast. And he's like, I'm down, man. So we made this podcast called Chaos People, and it's a science and technology podcast, but it doesn't take itself seriously, and we do a lot of joking and riffing and kind of really off the wall topics, and just kind of like a mental orgy, if you will. And so yeah, it's it's pretty fun. I'm having a good time with it, and we're taking it super casually and just having fun with it. We don't care what happens, kind of thing. But it's called Chaos People, and it's on YouTube, and it's on all your major podcasting services.
I think you had it. I think you had everyone at Mental Orgy.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, we
definitely got me. Yeah.
I mean, we covered topics from. Actually, Matt was on for an episode with aliens, and we covered things. I don't know, just genetics and AI and machine learning. So Nick's an AI and machine learning expert. So if anyone's interested in stuff like that, we talk about that too.
Oh, very good. How many episodes have you done?
We're going to release our 10th episode Saturday. So by the time this airs, probably be 10 episodes live. Yeah.
Very good. Well, look, everyone, please, Chaos people, go and Google it. Go and look it up on Spotify or wherever you get your podcast. Check it out on YouTube. Please, like, guys, I love these two gentlemen on the phone with me. Like, there's just nothing. I can't explain how much love I have for them. So, please go and help fill out. Please go download Melderon's new podcast. Go check it out. Just even if you just check the first one out, see how you go, and then listen to the others. I'm sure it's all fantastic. He has given us so much WoW content over the years. Do him a favor, throw him a bone, listen to one of his fucking new podcasts. There you go.
Thanks for
the least you can do.
It's the fucking least you can do, you ungrateful bastards.
Yeah, I think science is a very esoteric topic, and people are scared of it, and that's mostly the fault of scientists, because a lot of scientists have really bad social skills, and they don't know how to talk to people, and they make themselves sound very elitist, and we try to go the opposite direction of that. We try to use a very scientific topic and then just kind of destroy it to the point where it's essence down, so everyone can get involved in the conversation. So that's kind of what we do.
Very good. No, I'm so glad to hear it. I've got to go off and listen to an episode now and put my money where my mouth is. Very good. I'll take the dogs for a walk and pop on an episode later on.
There you go.
Guys, look, I won't keep you too long today, but we've covered sort of the main points that I wanted to talk about. But what are your thoughts on, Matt? Let me throw you this one. Just wrapping up this BlizzCon shit. We've said the things that we know are expecting to come. Next WoW expansion, the next Classic thing. They've got the survival game coming as well. Do you have much interest in that new IP?
Not really. Honestly,
I'm a big Rust guy or anything
checked
like
it
that.
out and saw what they put out there. I'm not a big survival game guy.
Yeah.
And, it's really weird because for the longest time, I played pretty much any Blizzard game that came out. You know what I mean? It's just that weird loyalty you have to Blizzard, even though you're not loyal to it. It's a lot of people are that way, right?
Yeah, you're grandfathered in at this point.
Yeah, you're just kind of I used to play Heroes of Storm a lot. I used to play Hearthstone a lot. I used to play StarCraft and everything. It just was how it was. So, but I don't feel that way about Blizzard anymore. It's more of just I love WoW and I love classic WoW, and I don't have that. I played Diablo 4 when it came out. I actually got really heavy into Diablo 4. I played all of season 1, got to level 100, and then there's just nothing to do in the game. And I kind of feel maybe I'll give it a shot, just because it's a Blizzard game, but I don't have that loyalty to Blizzard like I used to have. I guess I don't know.
I'll happily try it, and Phil, I'll throw it to you. I'll just say this: I'll happily try it, but I know what you're saying in terms of modern Blizzard fans want to be shown that there is substance beyond the surface level. Of we all know Blizzard can make a flashy game. That's great.
Yeah. But
we need some fucking meat on the bones as opposed to the proverbial Trojan horse. So I'll check out the new IP. I'm excited to check out a new game from Blizzard, but I don't go in as a fanboy going, this is going to be the fucking greatest thing ever.
Exactly. And Blizzard has a lot of, I think, healing to do with it, because dude, Blizzard fans used to be the most loyal fan. We were the most loyal fan base out there, when it came to Blizzard. I know a lot of people are like that. And then within the last 10 years or so, it's just gone so downhill, so bad. And I think a lot of people are in the same boat I am. A lot of people are in the same boat. They want to be, I would love to see Blizzard, rise back and be but I don't think it's ever going to happen, just because of the way the gaming industry is today, and, the people that are in charge. I feel bad for a lot of people that are developers in the game that are trying to do really good things. But they have, people above them that are, forcing them to meet quotas and
design it a certain way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Phil, how about you?
Like you said, we have friends that are, that are not friends, but we know people that are, in the development world and stuff. So,
Yeah. Josh, I haven't really thought about it, to be honest. Maybe I haven't really. I don't really know the genre very well, to be honest. So I'd like to see more about it. But I just remembered the other person who was at BlizzCon was Taladril. How did I forget
Oh, of
that?
course. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Was he
that's
in the
right.
house with us?
What's that?
Was he in the house with us? I can't remember.
So I don't remember that. Maybe he wasn't in the house with us. Maybe that's what it was.
Papa Taladril. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, Taladril, if you're listening. I didn't mean to exclude you there. But yeah, he was there too.
Absolutely.
With us. Yeah.
Well, what about, like, you know, if you're not that into the genre, Phil, what about sorry, I fucking keep using your first name, so you guys don't mind, do you?
No, please go ahead. I don't care. Yeah.
We've evolved the friendship.
Yeah, we evolved.
Mate, what about, like, I know again you did kind of walk away from WoW, but do you ever keep half an eye on what the next big MMO might be?
So I know that what's the God, I don't even know the name of it. Jesus. Help me out. What's the one that's in development still?
Ashes of Creation?
Ashes of Creation. Yeah. I mean, I guess that would be my guess. I don't know.
Like, do you have interest in it?
No, I don't. I'm turning into an old man, dude. I think
have
that
interest in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been keeping up with it a little bit. Yeah.
My boss is playing Starfield, so I've been trying to play that because he keeps walking in my office and asking me questions, and I'm like, I haven't played it yet.
Is Starfield not up your alley?
No, it is. I just haven't had the time. I want to play. I don't know how the hell he has time to play, my boss, but his kids, I guess because his kids are in college.
Yeah.
But I have played a few hours of it. It is interesting. It's fun. It doesn't scratch the same itch as Skyrim has yet, but it's still. I think Skyrim's, because it's medieval, has a much closer. Is easier for me. But yeah, so I think Ashes has a chance to. But I think developing an MMO nowadays is extremely risky, man. Look what happened to New World. I don't know, man. I don't think anything is going to beat WoW. I'm maybe I'm being naive by saying that. I think the only thing that would beat WoW is if we get to the point where virtual reality, or whatever they call it nowadays, is could you imagine classic WoW VR, man?
Oh my god, it would be amazing.
You say it, but, like, it depends what it asks of you physically. Do you know what I mean? Because, like,
yeah,
I guarantee you WoW gamers are not standing up and doing very much for very long. You know,
it's true.
It's going to be a walking simulator for the first few levels.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. They'd sit on the couch with the fucking visor on, I'm sure, and, like, sit there with the controller. But, like, I can't see we're not doing the fucking bow actions and all that shit for very long. We're not swinging swords for very long. I don't know. But, I mean, if anything, the spotlight for me is really just on Riot and what they're doing with the League of Legends MMO.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know about this.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
That would be interesting. I think that might be a good one. I think that I still stand by the fact that I think the best MMO could have been. And I'm talking during, like, Blizzard's golden age, during, like, Diablo 2, if they did the Diablo.
Diablo
MMO
would be fantastic.
Back then, yeah.
Like, instead of the World of Warcraft, it would have been like World of Diablo, like back in 2000s.
I don't know, man. I think that would have been absolutely outstanding.
So good.
Yeah.
Gothic horror fucking out the wazoo. I would have loved it.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, look, like I said, I won't keep you all night. Is there anything we've left off the table? Anything you were dying to tell all the listeners out there?
I do want to ask you how your hardcore experience has been, Josh.
Oh, mate,
and everything.
Yeah, fuck. We might as well talk a little bit of hardcore before we go, mate. I'm loving it. But huge caveat to that. Okay, look, I'm level, like, halfway through level 50, right?
Damn nice.
If I died on this warrior, I really don't think I could do it again. But it's not necessarily. Like, I always say, I'm not in love with hardcore. I just kind of like it. But it's not the hardcore thing that would keep me away from going to 60 again. I'm on the record, which is, it's fucking something classic fans don't want to hear, but I am just so done with one-time experience rates in classic WoW. That
a lot of people are.
The 40 to 60 journey is becoming, like, so unfun to me. It is like pulling teeth. I've done it so many times over the last fucking 4 years. I'm over it. when I hear it's the journey, not the destination now, I want to vomit. And I have now, seriously, I've lived long enough to see myself become the villain because I was a big journey, not the destination guy, yelling at all the fucking meta gamers who were like, no, just get me straight to end game. Fuck this, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, yo, what's wrong with Classic WoW? You just want to fucking get to raid at 60 and all this shit. But like, now I'm the bad guy. Now I'm like, mate, how many characters can I level before I get to say I'm sick of it?
Yeah. I don't think it's a crazy thing to say. I mean, I think that it's once you've leveled, Christ, I don't even know how many levels how many characters I've leveled to 60 or close to 60, which is, you know, even that's crazy, right? It does get a little, which is maybe why Classic Plus is going to be kind of fun because it may be something different, but it does get a little like, damn, bro, when you hit like 40, you're like, yay, I'm 40, but then you realize, oh shit, I have the 20 biggest levels in front of me.
Yeah, and now it's 5 hours per level, and you're like, oh.
I'm weird, dude. When I get to level 60, I literally miss leveling.
No, I love leveling, but like, I love 1 to 30 leveling, and then you get to 40, and you go like, am I being serious about this character? Am I seriously going to fucking do this now?
Yeah. It is a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And losing a cat, trust me, I lost a warrior at 43 in solo self-found. Josh, that was like, I was like, fuck, man. Like, I can't do this again.
I lost a shaman at 44 too, and it was really rough. Yeah.
I'd be gutted.
Like, I just wish, so I love leveling. I just wish there were more options in like, I wish if they did Classic Plus, like, I wouldn't mind if they did it 1x. Honestly, I wouldn't. I just want to be able to do like more paths to 60 instead of
different
just like
quests instead of knowing every single horde quest in the game.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes.
That's
what I want.
In saying that though, like, obviously I really want this warrior to get to 60, but like, I've become more hung up on the challenge than I thought I would be. Whereas like now I'm really like, I really want to be able to say I've done this. You know what I mean? It's such a stupid little thing to tick off the fucking gaming resume. If I don't do it, it doesn't make me less of a person or anything like that. But now that I'm so close, I'm like, I really want to be able to say I got a warrior to 60 on the hardcore challenge. And even if, it would be, even if that's the only character I ever do the hardcore challenge with, I'd be like, fuck yeah. You know what I mean? Like, that's my street cred, you know?
Yeah.
Totally, dude. Totally. Warrior, and you know, and I think we both kind of realized this recently or not, you know, semi-recently. I'm known as the shaman dude all throughout whatever, right? And, you know, towards the end of the end of Classic's timeline, I leveled a warrior to 60 to do some off-tanking and some DPS, and I'm officially like a warrior main now, and it's
so fun.
It's such a fucking great class, man. Whew.
But
I
like,
love it.
There's something that like, and now that I've said all this, I'll die today. I fucking guarantee you. But like, there's something about like, I really just like, I've never cared about the flex before, and it's not that I want to flex this, but like, it would make me feel good going like, I got a character to 60 as soon as the hardcore servers launched, and it was a warrior, and I've never played a fucking, like, with the extra knowledge of like, I've never played a warrior before, and I'm doing it with OCE ping. It really like makes me feel like a little bit of a gamer.
That's what scares me the most, though, honestly. Like, I'm not scared of doing something stupid. I'm scared of DCing. Like, that is my biggest fear in hardcore. And it's so sad to see so many hardcore.
It is, and obviously we should say, I don't know if you guys have seen in the news, the European server Stitches is on fire, unfortunately, at the moment, and they are going through some grief, and a lot of people are dying due to the server just going through a lot of hiccups, which is so unfortunate. People are dying on flights. We've got footage of it in the Countdown Discord. Really some fucking technical shenanigans are going on in Europe, and it's so unfortunate to see. But in saying that, look, I know I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on this. Yes, Blizzard has a lot of money on hands. Yes, Blizzard has the infrastructure, but like, I'm just of the I don't care if this gets me hate. I'm sorry. IT and tech is an incredibly fickle beast. Like, it's not like they want this to happen. It is actively against their best interest to have this server be going through issues. This is life. This is why they make you tick a box and sign your life away when you start a hardcore character saying, I completely understand that shit happens, and if shit happens, there's nothing that will be done about it. It fucking sucks, and my heart goes out to everyone who's lost a character to this shit. But we fucking agreed to a contract and knew what we were getting into. And I lose my fucking mind when I see people in the subreddit saying they should restore these characters. No, they fucking shouldn't. I'm sorry. I know the server should be stable, and I know it's going through a hard time, but you don't fucking play without accepting these risks.
I agree with you, Josh, but I also think it's unacceptable. So just as I also agree with you that it's unacceptable to ask for your character back, I also think it's unacceptable that if you hit the jump button in the water, there's a good chance you might DC. Like, how is that not fucking
it's
fucking temple and you fall through the ground.
It's totally fucked up, and I accept that. I'm not like trying to water that down. That is fucked up. But I'm just more so saying, like, technology, like, hiccups happen, and it's not like they're trying to do it.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. They're not trying to do it, but I'm just saying that they could. That guy who like charged in Sunken Temple and fell through the world.
Yeah,
that to me should never ever happen. That needs to be fixed.
That's a game bug as opposed to a server issue.
No, it's a game bug. So I'm not saying anything about. So I'm not talking about like acts of God.
Do you think he can get his character back though, Josh? That guy who fell through Sunken Temple?
That's the game is fucking fucked. There are broken parts of the game.
Is my point. Like, why shouldn't they fix that?
Oh, if they fixed it, I wouldn't have a drama with it. But I don't think he should get his character back.
No, I agree with you. Only because it's like you that starts a whole big.
You cannot open that Pandora's box.
Yeah, but I do think Blizz needs to see these deaths and be like, shit, someone fixed that fucking wall.
Oh, I've got no drama. I've got no drama with that. Yeah.
Or the logouts. You saw someone logged out in a cave, and they appeared outside the Arathi Basin Alliance camp, and they were horrible.
Well, maybe this is a hot take. I don't know how you guys feel about this, but logout skips should not be allowed. That should be removed.
I'm not into it. I've never done it. I'm not into it. But I mean, you seem to agree with me, Phil. Where I'm just like, and people have been on the show saying this as well. It's like, no matter how unfortunate the death, no matter how unfair it is, you cannot res one fucking person on these servers, or it all falls apart.
No, you're 100% right. I agree with you on that. I just wish Blizz would be like, damn, people can't use the jump button in water. We should fix that. You know what I mean? Like, someone should fix that. You know, but they're not.
Bugs should always be fixed. I completely agree. But if you're in Europe and you're playing when the servers are going through some issues, just take a couple of days off. I know it sucks. I know it's bullshit. I know you're paying for a subscription, but just be safe rather than sorry.
Also, welcome to. I mean, people have been going through this with Diablo for years and years and years, man. So this is not something new, and I'm not saying that it's not invalid what you're saying, but like people have lost Diablo characters with way more playtime than you have. So just think of it that way. It's not just you. But you know, it's like I just But I will say that it's really nice they did this. It's a really cool thing that they did this. It's a really cool thing they added some things like Makara but there was something that one of your guests said, Josh, on one of the previous podcasts.
Oh, can you just tell us where you were when you heard the podcast as well?
I was in the gym, man.
Hell yeah,
pump iron, baby. And I was getting a little bit of a chub, I have to say. So someone said they put the development time into doing X, but they couldn't do it into Y, and I forget what it was, but I agree with them wholeheartedly. Now I can't remember what it was. Someone said, they put development into doing Makara and to doing like not being able to kite Teramis and all these other things, but they couldn't fix this simple XYZ. Oh, it was it Solo Self-Found? It was something like that.
Oh, like they and Tito made the joke of like, so they're basically admitting that they released the server like not finished.
Finished.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the check the box to disable the fucking mailbox in the auction house for solo self-found.
Exactly. Like how much code would that and you know, people are like, well, you're not a coder. I work with coders every day, and I can say, and I do code, but not at the level of most of these people. That is not a hard thing to do. There's no one that you're not going to tell me that it's hard to turn that off. If an add-on can do it, so we had the hardcore add-on in Solo Self Found. The add-on did it. You're telling me that Blizzard can't do it? Come on.
Come on.
That's ridiculous.
But Matt, you guys you're fucking enjoying it, right? You're having a blast in hardcore.
Oh, having a great fucking time. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just, you know, I got to complain about something, Josh.
No, that's fine.
What else
mate.
is new?
But
Usually
overall,
I'm
I mean,
complaining.
I still think this has been a huge win for them. A huge win.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And even
It's crazy, man.
Yeah, you
where
go,
this
mate.
came from. I mean, we were doing GMAs back in 2020. Me, Meldron, Cargos, Dunedane, talking about hardcore. Cargos is talking about it, and then now it's turned into this. It's pretty amazing.
It's become a big thing. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's my big thing has been like, and I slightly butted heads with Blizzard over this, but like we understood where each other was coming from. Where I was saying, this is going to be a short-term victory for Blizzard because I'm not sure how much interest there's going to be in hardcore servers in 3 to 6 months' time when the next new shiny thing comes out. And Blizzard's, I shouldn't say Blizzard, but like a response I got was, but that's okay. And that's true. Like if they just want a short-term win as a bit of like content for now, that is okay. That's perfectly fine. And it's something that people can always come back to later on. Like era servers, era servers were dead for ages and then they thrived again, more recently. And it is fine that hardcore servers are going to go through a lull eventually. And I think it's going to be sooner rather than later. But it is nice that they did this for us. And I've been very, very, what's the word I'm looking for? I've heaped a lot of praise on Blizz for doing this for the fans.
Yeah.
And it doesn't fucking matter that I say things like the servers will look very different in a few months' time because as long as we had fun in the short term, that's what matters.
Right.
But like I do see already, I'm wondering if you guys have seen this, I do see already people really sort of realizing after having tried it for a few weeks now that maybe hardcore just isn't for them, and there's nothing wrong with that because it is a fucking brutal play style.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Absolutely.
And I will say one more thing to complain about is, so I feel for people who put a lot of time and they got their heart broken, but all I can say is keep doing it because I lost a lot of characters before I got anything close to 60. So so that's one thing I will say. The other thing I will say, albeit, is please, for Christ's sake, you're playing a game mode where you're not by yourself in a lot of situations. You're with other people, especially when you're doing dungeons. Just take an hour, and learn about some things about your class, please. Like, because you're trolling other people, and you're affecting their experience if you're not doing that.
I was screaming at the rogues. Like I've got 2 rogues that I've been leveling with, friends of mine who are fantastic players. And the second I went with random rogues who weren't them, I saw the difference. And I was like, why are you fucking allergic to hitting your kick button? Like not once in this whole fucking dungeon. If you could kick. Why? Just give me a good fucking reason why that's not the gamer explanation of, hey, it's a fucking DPS loss, bro. Shut the fuck up, idiot. Like, oh my God.
Dude,
as a rogue, I love playing as a rogue, being like a friendly, like, cheap shotting openers so that the tank isn't taking extra damage, kicking on cooldown, like when they're casting, like just, Meldron and I made a guide called the what the hell was it called? The etiquette guide, right? It's about how to properly like play with other people in an MMO, and I highly recommend it to anyone who's new to hardcore. It definitely works for hardcore as well as regular WoW. Just for people that are new and they don't know maybe like how to act in a group or like what to do in certain situations.
Like if this was a multi-life server and you want to be a total like idiot and not know anything about your class, that's fine because guess what? If you wipe, who cares, right?
Right.
But if you cause a wipe at like in Ultimate, the amount of hours you just remove from people's lives is just like, please, just learn a few things, ask questions, and if you're a tank and if you know how to play, like, or not just a tank, but like just try to like impart some of your wisdom on the people before you just run into a dungeon and be like, hey, listen, this mob does this and this mob does that. The amount of healers healing classes I've come across who don't know they can heal without being restoration or holy. The amount of tanks that don't know they don't have to be prot to tank. The amount of just all these things, right? And there's such a shortage of tanks, but there's so many warriors. Just to give you an idea, there's a lot of warriors playing hardcore, but there's still a shortage of tanks, and that's because most people don't know that you just got to hit Sunder Armor.
Yeah.
For the most part, hitting Sunder Armor is enough knowledge to get you through most situations. It's just like, you just got to find out what you need to find out. I'm just like, please go out and research stuff.
The biggest killer has been, and I'll say it time and time again, and people are already sick of hearing me saying it, but the biggest killer in hardcore WoW is people not adjusting their gameplay for hardcore WoW. And if you are just playing the game the same fucking way you've always played it, you are destined to fail at some stage. It's going to come and bite you in the ass at some fucking stage. And I sent you guys that amazing clip, which is just probably my favorite clip already from hardcore, of that mage in BRD that just engages on Emperor with everything he's got from the first cooldown, like pops, cooldowns, combustion, scorch, crit city, and he's doing it all from melee range for some fucking reason. Unbelievable on just like the must pump at all costs mentality.
Yeah, it's man, it's unfortunate.
You're absolutely right, Josh. Like the biggest part of this game is we just lost level 60 in the guild. Yeah, so it's like people do things in the game all the time that they shouldn't be doing. Like this person was just like AFKing in the wrong place. Like just like I've seen so many people just walk into mobs, like walk into elites, and just it happened to me too.
I did it on my level 16 2 days ago.
Yeah,
I walked into a group just because I thought I was invincible, and I'm fucking not.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But otherwise, it's been a super cool thing. It's been a very different experience this time for me. Like this is out of all the freshes I've ever done, this is a very different type of fresh.
This has been the best. This has been the best fresh for me because I finally actually know how to play the game a little bit.
Yeah. That's good.
I'm being social for the first time in my life. I always played this game as a single player game. Didn't do best way to play it. Didn't do guilds. Didn't make friends. Didn't run dungeons. Doing it all differently now, and finally, as people would say, I'm playing the game the correct way, and I'm having a lot of fun.
Oh, that's awesome, man. That is awesome.
Yeah, but you guys need to fucking come to Alliance.
Just not playing with us, you fuck.
I know.
Yeah.
We'll change that on the next server for sure. Look, guys, let's wrap it up there. You guys have been fucking amazing. Please, anything outside of the podcast to plug? Well, obviously, like Def Camp, you've got your stream, mate. Tell people where to find you again.
Yeah, just I stream pretty much daily on twitch.tv/defcamp. Hardcore content, level 55 rogue right now. And I'll be streaming tomorrow, and I'll be streaming the rest of the week. So you guys catch me live on twitch.tv/defcamp.
Very good. And Meldron, anything else to plug? Any shout outs?
No, I guess I'll just shout out the podcast one more time. It's Chaos People. It's on YouTube and Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Chaos People. And then I'd like to say thanks to some people that from Def Camp Stream, especially Jeff. You've been super helpful with helping us out with a lot of stuff on the hardcore realm. It's very, very nice that you're able to do that. Also, like to thank this guy called Def Camp, who may or may not have given me 60 gold to get my mana level 40.
Oh, no way he did that. No way. What a nice guy.
What a good brother.
Didn't he also give his brother like a bunch of plate gear too for level 40?
He did.
Oh, yeah, like a whole plate set. That's awesome.
What a crutch. Oh my god.
I know, right?
Oh my god. All right, guys.
Yeah. All right.
Have a good one, boys, and we will talk to you again later on. Maybe we'll catch up, whether it's for the podcast or not. We'll catch up after BlizzCon and see what these guys announce for us.
Hell yeah.
All right.
Sounds
Great.
awesome.
Thanks,
Man.
Jess. Have
All
a
right,
good day.
I'll talk to
See
you
you
later.
guys.
Bye.
Take it easy, Josh.
Bye.
Yep. See you, man.
I'll actually hang around, guys. I'll end the stream. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
Stream. I'll catch you later. That's it for today.